Chapter 241. Facing the challenge, Yang Tianyi was not afraid. He raised his lips slightly and chanted a spell softly. A red light instantly burst out from the tip of his wand. Angelina and Elena looked at each other, waved their wands at the same time, and chanted something. For a moment, 3 rays of light intertwined and collided in the air, sparks flying everywhere. Humph, just an appetizer. Elena was still full of pride, and she and Angelina chanted the spell again. But at this moment, Yang Tian's second spell had already arrived. The 2 women were shocked and rushed out, thus luckily escaping, but then, Yang Tian's spell rained down again, forcing the 2 women to dodge and escape. From beginning to end, Yang Tian did not cast any outrageous spells, but always used the basic attack skills. This is not because the 2 girls are too weak, but because their actual combat ability is too poor. You know, Yang Tian has accumulated a wealth of battlefield experience in various wizard battles. How can he be compared with the greenhouse flowers in the 2 academies? Even if the 2 girls have powerful enough spells, you have to be able to cast them, right? Just a small mistake, they have fallen into a complete passive position. As time went by, the magic power around them began to surge, and even the air seemed to become heavier. Yang Tian's eyes were focused and determined, and he kept changing his gestures to guide the flow of magic power. Angelina and Elena worked closely together to hide here and there, trying to use their advantage in numbers to find Yang Tian's flaws and turn the unfavorable situation around. However, Yang Tian's strength was beyond their expectations. His attack was like a storm, gradually making the 2 of them feel exhausted. Sweat beads oozed from Elena's forehead. She gritted her teeth, concentrated her energy, and tried her best to resist Yang Tian's attack. At this moment, Yang Tian suddenly increased his spell-casting speed, and a huge rock fell from the sky and hit Angelina. She hurriedly dodged sideways, but was still knocked back a few steps by the aftermath. "Do you want to continue?" Yang Tian asked with a smile. The 2 women looked at Yang Tian breathlessly. They suddenly realized that the gap between them and Yang Tian was like a chasm. Although they were unwilling, they still chose to give up. "We will try our best to catch up with you," Elena said, biting her lip. "You're welcome anytime." Yang Tian put away his wand and nodded with a smile. The new members were shocked when they saw Yang Tian's strength for the first time. The strength of this first-year wizard was beyond their imagination. When they thought that they would not be able to go to Albania after failure, they couldn't help but feel discouraged. But at this moment, Neville stood out from the crowd and said firmly, "Yang Tian, you know we will not give up the opportunity to fight alongside you. Although our strength is not as good as yours, we still hope that you can fulfill your previous promise. The 8 of us are capable of fighting you." Yang Tian looked at Neville admiringly and said, "Okay, let's fight, but I'll make it clear first, I won't show mercy. Of course, we also want a fair battle." Penelope shouted. Then, Neville and Hannah stood in front, and their friends behind them quickly cast an armor spell on them. Yang Tian's moves were naturally not slow either. He moved quickly sideways while casting a disarming spell with the ancient magic wand. He wanted to see how strong these guys were now. Neville quickly cast a spell, and although it was a little slow, he still blocked it. But Yang Tian also cast out his second spell. But at this moment, Pansy suddenly whispered a strange spell, and her wand kept stabbing forward like a sword. This spell-casting action that was like a shaman dance really stunned Yang Tian, but he was not panicked at all and continued to construct the spell at his own pace. But the next moment, Yang Tian suddenly felt that the energy around him was very unstable, and the magic framework he had built was actually affected. Fortunately, he had rich combat experience, and he quickly adjusted his gestures to complete the spell and cast the spell. The previous spell was blocked by Hannah's spell, so let's see what you can do with this attack. But Hannah's wrist suddenly lit up, and a transparent energy shield directly blocked the spell. Wow, it seems that the protective bracelet is about to be completed. At this moment, Padma and Parvati's spells also arrived. The 2 grey spells quickly attacked Yang Tian, but suddenly collided when they were 1 meter away from Yang Tian. There was no explosion of fire, nor a deafening sound, but a tremor from the soul attacked Yang Tian and the people watching behind him. Everyone watching the battle was stunned, but Yang Tian was obviously not one of them. He threw 2 more spells while flying forward. Although they were still blocked by Hannah's protective bracelet, the energy shield had already cracked. After a short break, Pansy stepped forward again and performed the shaman jumping attack again. My goodness, this is a typical assistance. Just as Yang Tian was about to fight back, Zhang Qiu had already cast a flying spell into the air and launched a barrage at Yang Tian. Compared to the last time, this flying spell was faster and more bizarre. Yang Tian had no choice but to change direction again and threw out 2 more spells in his hands. Daphne had been hiding behind everyone since the duel began, but she never stopped casting. In fact, Yang Tian had already discovered what she was doing, but he was also very curious about what kind of surprises such a long casting would bring. Until this moment, the energy in the duel venue suddenly fluctuated violently, and then rushed madly towards Daphne's wand. How can a little girl like you control such a powerful energy fluctuation? Don't blow yourself up. Yang Tian frowned and threw a blast protection spell at Daphne's wand. This spell, which he got from his grandmother and used for experimental protection, was upgraded by him. Not only did it make up for the shortcoming that the explosion point could not be too large, but the protection effect was doubled. Daphne, who was already struggling, was startled. Was the energy absorption of the spell blocked? But before she could react, she felt a sense of emptiness in her body after trying her best to control the spell, and finally collapsed to the ground. At the moment when Yang Tian was distracted by protecting Daphne, a devil vine suddenly shot out from Neville's left hand and tied Yang Tian's left hand tightly. Yang Tian was startled and cast 2 spells in succession, and the devil vine was finally cut off. Unfortunately, everything seemed to be too late. The piece of mithril that Hermione threw out during the chaos was already very close to Yang Tian, and the countless silver needles that Penelope secretly transformed also flew towards Yang Tian. I have to say, Yang Tian was so angry that he laughed. This was a tactic specially designed for him. In an instant, he suddenly released the magic power around him, and the elements in his dantian accelerated in mysterious ways, and an energy storm appeared out of thin air. In an instant, the sound of boom explosions continued, resounding throughout the school director's compartment. Chapter 242. The moment the mithril approached him, it was deflected, and an explosion sounded immediately, but unfortunately it was blocked by the elemental energy storm. The flying needles were even more miserable, and they exploded one by one the moment they came into contact with the storm. It did not cause any impact on Yang Tian, who was in the center of the storm. Do you have any new tricks? If not, I'm done. Yang Tian said jokingly. The 8 people in front of him brought him a huge surprise. If it weren't for his sudden inspiration and the use of his intelligent brain to deduce a spell named Elemental Storm, he might have suffered a loss this time. The creation of this elemental storm was also an extremely accidental thing. Yang Tian swore that this was definitely a case of his middle school syndrome. In his previous life, when he watched the original movie of the same name, Dumbledore would release his aura whenever he had nothing to do, and the storm would be able to bounce people far away. This made him feel very excited. A while ago, I don't know what was wrong with me, and I remembered this scene again. My restless heart could no longer be restrained. The problem is that they were able to explode with their own strength. Yang Tian's current strength is still weak. But there are exceptions to everything. With the database of the intelligent brain that is well versed in both Chinese and Western culture, it has actually deduced an alternative plan. The method of using the vortex of elements in the body to cause the surrounding energy to riot is really a fantastic idea. It is even more cool to use it in this critical moment. Seeing Yang Tian's unpredictable methods, the old members finally put down their wands in bitterness. The new members around were completely dumbfounded. Especially Angelina and Elena, who were so ashamed and angry. It turned out that not only could they not beat Yang Tian, but they might not even be able to beat these first-year kids. The Weasley brothers were even more speechless. They swallowed their saliva helplessly, but said nothing. Heavy pressure was placed on the shoulders of each new member. Facing his friends who were already sweating profusely, Yang Tian smiled with satisfaction and said, "Not bad, there has indeed been great progress. I can also see that everyone is working very hard." After a pause, Yang Tian changed his tone and said, "But I believe you can see that in the face of absolute strength, some small tricks are not enough. Of course, I am not saying that you should not use your brain in a fight. But I want to tell you that when the gap between strength and vision is too large, you will not be able to formulate a truly effective plan. For example, my magic power is also my shortcoming, and it is slightly inferior to that of ordinary adult wizards. Therefore, when fighting against others, I also rely on a variety of strange means. And you are doing the same thing, which requires you to have a clearer understanding of yourself." The friends all listened carefully to Yang Tian's words because he always hit the point. "Hermione, your application of runes is great, but it lacks the support of alchemy. Also, your understanding of runes is still superficial and you haven't delved into its essence. If you can make up for these two shortcomings, that piece of mithril can at least be 10 times more powerful. Listening to Yang Tian's explanation, Hermione looked thoughtful. Hannah, the protection bracelet shows that you have mastered the basics of alchemy. But at the same time, your skills are too crude. Alchemy is indeed very powerful, but if you really want to study it in depth, it will take a lifetime of effort. Hannah was very happy to hear this. I know, although it is difficult, it is indeed my interest, and I will continue to work hard. Yang Tian responded with an encouraging smile, and then continued, Neville is good. Your cultivation of the devil vine has improved a lot. It can even block 2 of my spells. But it will be a bit disadvantageous in battle because its function is too single. In fact, you can try to cultivate the devil vine from multiple directions at the same time. Don't be afraid of failure. Neville's eyes lit up and he nodded vigorously. What is that magic spell for shamanism, Pansy? I didn't know you could do it. It's a very good spell, it should be a family magic, right? Unfortunately, you don't resonate with it very much. Yang Tian said with a smile. Yes, this is the family magic that I tried to learn during Christmas. Unfortunately, all families are the same now, the bloodline is too thin, and its true power cannot be exerted at all. I am also trying hard in this regard. Pansy said a little frustrated. Not bad. Give me a copy of the data when you have time and I will help you study it. Yang Tian said with a smile. Pansy was extremely excited when she heard that. She quickly said, Okay, I'll let the owl take it over when we get home. And you, Daphne? Is it also a family magic? This is not something you can control now. I even feel that your magic construction will not succeed at all, and may even cause an explosion. Yang Tian's expression became much more serious. Daphne stuck out her tongue and said, Yes, this was specially arranged by Penelope, hoping to attract your attention. In fact, in a few seconds, I just need to cut off the magic construction, and this magic will automatically dissipate. Yang Tian looked at them helplessly and said, You guys really planned everything to win. The moves of the Petal sisters are very novel and deceptive. But soul power is your biggest weakness. Adult wizards will basically not be affected. Seeing the frustrated expressions of the 2 sisters, he continued, But this direction is very good, and you can temper your souls properly. This time when you go home, take a good look at the books in the family. Now the 2 women were happy and kept nodding their heads in agreement. Zhongqiu's flying skills are very good, and his progress is obvious, especially compared to last time. It would be even better if he could be faster and more deceptive. Yang Tian praised. Zhongqiu nodded happily. Senior Penelope, this combined battle formation was designed by you, right? You also added all the conspiracies and tricks, right? Moreover, it is specifically aimed at me, right? Yang Tian looked at Penelope with a helpless look and asked. Stop talking about those useless things, and comment on them quickly. Penelope said unhappily. She was the most uncomfortable here. She had calculated and tested everything repeatedly, but she still couldn't defeat this guy. In fact, it was very likely that she didn't even force out the opponent's true strength. What a shame. Your plan was very accurate. The only pity is that you only know your own strength, but you don't know mine at all. This is the biggest reason for your failure. There is an old Chinese saying, only when you know yourself and your enemy can you win every battle. Penelope stopped talking and lowered her head to think alone. No one in the carriage spoke, but an inexplicable emotion rose in everyone's heart. Yang Tian was very strong, but he had also gone through many battles to get to where he is today. And what about me? Was I really afraid of a fight? Was I going to be left further and further behind? The atmosphere gradually became depressing, and all the little wizards looked unwilling and hesitant. Looking at the expressions of his friends, Yang Tian sighed and finally spoke. Chapter 243. Well, fine. For this operation, I cannot use magic strength as the criterion, and I can also let everyone participate. When everyone heard this, the look in their eyes instantly changed. But Yang Tian immediately said, Don't be too happy, I haven't finished yet. The prerequisites for participating in this operation are, first, you must seriously consider the degree of danger of this operation, you only have 1 life, second, you must inform your family of the details and degree of danger of this operation, and get their approval. If your family really agrees that you go, and you are also determined, then, write to me. I will come to your house in person to confirm one by one. When the friends who were originally happy heard such a request, their excitement was instantly extinguished and they all turned into bitter faces. Looking at their expressions, Yang Tian didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and said, "No way. You guys are not planning to go out and fight with others without telling your family, are you? Stop it, okay." Actually, what Yang Tian said is correct. We are all wizards, and our future is destined to take a dangerous path. I don't know about you, but I believe that my father, who is a wizard from a glorious pure-blood family, will firmly support my decision. The speaker was Pansy. Although she was controlled by Yang Tian's mind seed and obeyed his master's words, arrogance and the concept of pure-blood supremacy were engraved in her bones. Elena also raised her head and said coldly, "The request is reasonable. As long as you can solve the problem of Zongxi, just wait for my letter. I'll go back and have a good talk with Grandma. I believe she won't stop me from fighting for justice." Neville said with the same firmness. My sister's homes are too far away, can you come here in person?" Padma asked with a turn of her eyes. "Haha, India is a long-distance flight, it's not like I haven't done it before. Don't worry." Yang Tian blocked the road tightly. "You still say we are brothers. Yang Tian, I feel that this condition of yours is specifically aimed at us." George said dissatisfiedly. "That's right. Given my mother's personality, she would never agree to this request." Fred said indignantly. "You won't let me face Mrs. Weasley's wrath alone when school starts, right? Why do I feel like you have bad intentions?" Yang Tian glared at the two of them with dissatisfaction, refusing to give in. No matter how everyone laughed, yelled, or bargained, no matter how everyone forced themselves to smile and were reluctant to leave, the Hogwarts Express finally arrived slowly at Platform 9 of King's Cross Station. Before the train stopped, Yang Tian saw his mother Sophie waiting on the platform. The other friends were also trying to find their families. At this moment, the desire to go home and the joy of meeting their families seemed to be more important than anything else. After saying goodbye and making promises, the friends dispersed under the guidance of their families and gradually merged into the crowd. It was already 7 o'clock in the evening when Yang Tian and his mother Sophie arrived at the Furley Manor. Grandpa, Grandma and Father Yang Wen had been waiting for a long time. Seeing Yang Tian come back, everyone had a warm scene. Fortunately, everyone had met at the commendation meeting a few days ago, so they were not overly excited at this time. On the contrary, the house elf Dika had been separated from his little master for many years since he was sent to the Nightmare Station. Although he had seen his little master once or twice in the past, he still missed his little master very much. Yang Tian also missed the little guy who grew up with him. His parents knew this very well. So, they took Dika back during the holiday. Sure enough, after seeing his little master, Dika was so excited that he started chatting with Yang Tian with tears in his eyes. The two of them seemed to have endless things to say. They finally stopped talking until dinner was ready. The family sat around the dining table, enjoying a rich and warm dinner, and then moved to the living room to chat. At this moment, the family atmosphere was particularly harmonious, and everyone's face was filled with happy and satisfied smiles. Yang Tian enthusiastically told his grandparents and parents about the interesting things that happened to him in school and some of his achievements. Everyone was naturally familiar with Yang Tian's glorious deeds this year. But when they heard Yang Tian tell the story himself, they listened very carefully. Everyone laughed heartily from time to time, and it was obvious that they were very interested in these stories and enjoyed them. Just as everyone was chatting and laughing, Sophie suddenly spoke up and brought the conversation to the upcoming action. "Xiao Tian, can you not participate in this trip to Albania? Isn't it enough that so many people are participating? The current situation is completely different from before. There is no need for us nightmares to be at the forefront, especially you." "Yes, Xiao Tian. I have reached an agreement with Mr. Borgin. All the staff of Borgin Bookstore must be mobilized. If Dumbledore and other forces are involved, it should be enough. One more or one less will not make much difference. We really don't want to see you continue to take risks." Old Man Barnett also hurriedly said. Yang Tian was stunned by the sudden change. He was shocked and asked, "What happened? It's only been a short time, why are your attitudes so different?" This question made the four of them silent, and no one knew how to answer. Yang Tian was not going to take it anymore and asked directly, "What happened? Tell me quickly, you know, we are not the only ones taking action now, one move can affect the whole body. Seeing this, Yang Wen quickly comforted him, Xiao Tian, calm down first. Well, how should I put it? The main reason is that after the last meeting, the implementation of various measures was not smooth. The main reason is still in the Ministry of Magic. This time, Fudge was tough to the end. Not only did he publicly announce that British wizards should take care of the affairs of the British wizarding world, he also called back the Aurors and Dementors that Scrimgeour had originally agreed to. Asshole! Yang Tian slammed the table and stood up angrily, then he forced himself to calm down and asked, "Is there any worse news?" The reconnaissance reports sent by 5 idiots and Mad Dog show that the enemy seems to have known our actions and has begun to mobilize manpower. Sarek is increasing its troops every day. Crack! Yang Tian angrily threw the vase on the table to the ground, smashing it to pieces. Very good, Minister Fudge really gave me a surprise. Yang Tian's eyes were icy cold. He took a few deep breaths before speaking seriously again, "Grandpa, Grandma, Father, Mother, we must fight this battle for the turning point in the prophecy, for the generals who died in the Yang family, and for ourselves. I believe in my judgment. If we really fail to stop Sarek this time, they will get unparalleled benefits. And our family, and even the entire British wizarding world, will be doomed. Or perhaps, returning to China is the only way to survive. Is this what you want?" Yang Wen said helplessly, "Although we don't have such a strong sense of crisis as you, we do feel that the situation is not good. But instead of doing something that we know is impossible, it is better to conserve our strength and work together when they attack our homeland. It's impossible. The revelation that Xing Chen gave me is very strong. We must not let Sarek get this opportunity. It is a qualitative change that will completely transform their organization. Although I don't know what this opportunity is, I clearly feel that as long as they get it, we will face an absolute disadvantage." It turned out to be like this. The 4 of them finally realized the seriousness of the problem and fell into deep thought again. Yang Tian then took out several pieces of parchment and began writing furiously. As he wrote, he said, "I will write a letter right now to inform our people that starting tomorrow, the Forley Manor will become a temporary contact point. Let us make a final effort for this battle. Okay, let's do our best. We'll go and notify the others." The old fry couple, Yang Wen and Sophie, also hurried into action. Chapter 244. After Yang Tian finished writing the letter, he returned to his long mist bedroom with a heavy expression. He did not feel the warm feeling of a returning swallow, but was filled with worries. He had no choice but to lie on the bed and force himself to sleep, but how could he really sleep? When Yang Tian was upset, a cold mechanical voice suddenly sounded in his mind, "The deduction of the mysterious space of the suitcase has been completed. Do you want to receive all the information?" Yang Tian, who was originally in a bad mood, was now beating his heart. Was the intelligent computer giving him such a big surprise on the first day of the holiday? He quickly issued an order to the intelligent computer, "Receive all information." As the command was issued, a huge stream of information poured into Yang Tian's mind and merged with his original memories. After Yang Tian finished reading all the information, he was so shocked that he was speechless. It was not just a simple space analysis report, but a comprehensive information including space analysis, space creation, space application, etc. This matter was beyond his comprehension. This set of information seemed to be related to the Western magic system he was familiar with, but not very related. On the contrary, it was also inextricably linked to the Eastern magic system, which was really weird. But no matter what, facing such huge gains, who wouldn't be jealous? From rage to ecstasy, Yang Tian's mentality fluctuated dramatically. He tried hard to calm himself down, but found that he couldn't calm down at all. He had seen many magical things, but this one still shocked him. He slowly opened the suitcase and walked slowly, 1 floor, 2 floors, 3 floors. He looked at every item in the suitcase: space, blood, corpses, ice coffins, blood pools. He wasn't looking for something, he just wanted to slow down his heartbeat a little bit. He walked through the door and went straight to the mysterious space, greeting his pets one by one, including the night starling named Dehei, the unicorn named Dabai, the blue phoenix named Feng Feng, the ice silkworm named Bing Bing, and the thunderbird locked in the cage, etc. Finally, he rode on the somersault cloud and soared into the sky, looking down at the common people. When his heart calmed down again, Yang Tianke began to comprehend the spatial information. According to the intelligent brain, the magical space in front of us is an unstable space composed of 6 elements: water, fire, earth, wind, light, and darkness. Completely different from the original space folding and mending technique of the traceless stretching spell, this magical space is based on 6 elements to independently create a relatively unstable new space. The biggest feature of this independently created new space is that it has the ability to self-repair and grow. This means that it is not an unchanging space, but can continue to evolve and develop. Of course, 6 elements are not a definite number, and a single element can also create a space. It's just that the fewer the elements, the easier it is to build a space, but the more unstable the space will be. Similarly, the more elements, the more complex the construction of the space, but the more stable the space will be. Under the deduction of the intelligent brain, Yang Tian has mastered the method of combining the 6 elements of water, fire, earth, wind, light, and darkness to create a space at will. As time passed, Yang Tian's eyes became clearer. At this moment, he suddenly picked up the ancient magic wand and waved it casually, but every wave seemed to contain endless mysteries. In the blink of an eye, an exquisite, small and exquisite space light ball suddenly appeared in Yang Tian's hand, shining brightly. This light ball was like a bright pearl, attracting the surrounding energy to gather continuously and slowly pour into it. Although it was not turbulent, it was like a trickle, stretching for a long time, and this magical space light ball seemed to be given life, and began to expand gradually at an extremely slow but unwavering speed. It actually worked. Yang Tian's joy was beyond words. Admittedly, according to the deduction of the intelligent brain, it will be a very long process for this space light ball to grow by absorbing the surrounding elements. However, after all, a solid first step has been taken, right? Moreover, who says there will be no other way to make it grow quickly in the future? More importantly, since the construction of space has been successful, what kind of terrifying form will the space application take? Just thinking about it, Yang Tian was inexplicably excited. Then, he placed the space light ball on the somersault cloud and stopped paying attention to it. Instead, he began to test the space application according to the deduction of the intelligent brain. Yang Tian's ancient magic wand danced lightly, like a painter splashing ink, and a 2-dimensional space composed of pure light elements came into being, just like a piece of glass as thin as a cicada's wing, small and exquisite, crystal clear, but he kept moving. The magic wand continued to dance, and a 2-dimensional space composed of pure dark elements followed. The 2 spaces followed each other like shadows, but at the moment of merging, they confronted each other and disappeared at the same time, but in the next moment, they appeared 20 meters in front of them as if teleporting. The pulling force was like an unstoppable torrent, instantly tearing the 2 spaces apart, forming 4 shocking spatial cracks, like a ferocious beast with its bloody mouth opened, which made people shudder. Is this the space blade? Thinking of various animations and novels in his previous life, Yang Tian's heart was pounding. Perhaps it would be cooler to call it Dimension Slash? No one should object to this suggestion, right? Anyway, it was my invention and I have the right to name it, ha ha ha. After that, he laughed triumphantly. After a while, Yang Tian calmed down his excitement and started a new attempt. The beginning was naturally exactly the same, the light element 2-dimensional space, the dark element 2-dimensional space, but when they were about to collide, Yang Tian created another wind element 2-dimensional space. The 2 consecutive collisions caused the 3 spaces to disappear instantly, but they did not reappear immediately. It was not until Yang Tian focused his mind on a certain place that the 3 spaces flashed in a more bizarre and rapid manner. The majestic pulling force appeared again, and the 3 spaces were torn apart at the same time, forming a series of narrow and deep space cracks, as if they were passages leading to purgatory. The scene was simply terrifying and horrifying. Hee, it worked again. This is so powerful. Yang Tian, who was panting, still said excitedly. Just as he was about to continue the experiment, he was shocked to find that 2/3 of the magic power in his body had been consumed. This consumption rate was truly shocking. Yang Tian hurriedly sat back on the somersault cloud, trying his best to recover his strength. Inadvertently, he habitually cast his eyes towards the colorful clouds with messages in the sky. But in an instant, his eyes widened like copper bells, as if they were about to burst out of their sockets. What a big deal! Chapter 245. Yang Tian was not being overly surprised, but the scene in front of him was too bizarre. He saw the colorful cloud with the words "observe it, understand it, master it, perfect it, surpass it. Then, you will become one of us" written on it, Just like iron filings attracted by a magnet, it went straight into the space light ball created by Yang Tian, like a gurgling stream, flowing continuously. In the short time that Yang Tian used to test the space application, most of the shining text clouds had disappeared. In a moment, the clouds almost disappeared, and the sky seemed to be a little darker, while the space light ball beside him swelled to the size of a tennis ball like a balloon. When the last wisp of cloud was completely devoured, the abnormality broke out unstoppably. In an instant, the entire space trembled wildly as if it was ignited, as if a shocking earthquake was raging. At the same time, a deafening roar came from all directions, like thousands of wild beasts roaring in unison, making people shudder and tremble with fear. This sudden change made everything around blurry, and the originally clear scene was instantly distorted into a chaos. The howling wind swept past, blowing all objects into pieces with its fierce momentum, lightning streaked across the sky, and the dazzling light illuminated every corner, but also brought endless fear and anxiety. Yang Tian was terrified. Could it be that this space was about to collapse? Thinking of this, he became anxious and terrified. He hurriedly controlled the somersault cloud and tried his best to fly towards the entrance. Time passed, and after 2 minutes, he finally returned to the original place panting. However, at this moment, something unexpected happened. An extremely powerful and vital aura swept in like a whirlwind, instantly covering the entire space. In an instant, the space that was originally violently turbulent gradually stabilized, the deafening noise also disappeared, even the night sky that was originally dim and dark suddenly regained its brightness, as if nothing had happened just now. No, it should be said that everything seems to be better. Just look at Yang Tian's pets and you will know that at this moment these little guys all seem particularly cheerful and lively, as if they are completely immersed in some wonderful and joyful atmosphere and cannot extricate themselves. Looking at the scene in front of him, Yang Tian felt it carefully. This space seems to have a lot more vitality. Not only that, when he looked at the horizon again, his eyes widened again. The same night sky, the same position, a new row of dazzling clouds reappeared, and the beautiful handwriting also wrote new words, "Congratulations on taking a solid step. Unfortunately, we are still far away, you have to work harder." In an instant, Yang Tian seemed to understand something. He frantically controlled the somersault cloud to fly around, trying hard to find the difference in this space. He knew this place well and soon made a new discovery. He saw that a long section of the wall, which was originally composed of countless space cracks and stretched all around and reached the sky, had disappeared. Instead, there was an entrance composed of a huge forest. Yang Tian entered carefully, but after walking for a while, he found something different. The trees in this forest were unusually tall and full of vitality. The forest was also filled with the sounds of insects and birds. If you look closely, you can see earthworms turning the soil, rabbits eating grass, and other scenes. The further he flew, the more frequent similar scenes became. Yang Tian even saw wild boars, red foxes, wild cats, and other animals in the forest. The only regret was that there was not even one magical animal in this forest. Seeing that he had almost finished observing, Yang Tian controlled the somersault cloud and accelerated out of the forest. As expected, just as Yang Tian imagined, there were lakes, mountains, rivers, grasslands, all kinds of natural scenery. And, just like the forest, it was full of vitality. After flying a full circle, Yang Tian finally determined it. The newly appeared space was about the same size as the previous space, and was also blocked by the terrifying space crack wall. The only difference seemed to be the vitality. Unwilling to give up, Yang Tian began an aimless reconnaissance flight, trying to find more differences in this land. Sure enough, hard work pays off. After many rounds, Yang Tian found traces of human habitation at the junction of the forest and a small river. Although they were just a few wooden houses, and although they were empty and full of dust, and even somewhat rotten and seemed to collapse at any time, they really existed. Especially the dense deduction formulas engraved on the wooden wall of the wooden house shocked him greatly, because these formulas are the important deduction steps of the elemental space composition. Yang Tian has an intelligent brain to help him deduce, so he can easily complete these, but these people use mental arithmetic to solve all of this. What kind of brains and perseverance do they need? Yang Tian was shocked. If the above situations were still within his tolerance range, then Yang Tian's next discovery would make him feel a little sad. Just on the hillside behind these wooden houses, there stood 2 cemeteries, with the same wooden tombstones, equally simple, but what made him sad was that the name on the tombstone was John Doe, anonymous, and the inscription on the back of the tombstone made him feel even more sad. The person who fell here was shameful, and he should not be remembered. Seeing all this, Yang Tian's head was buzzing. What kind of people are these? Are they ruthless or arrogant? Don't losers even have the qualifications to be remembered? In fact, with all the clues, Yang Tian had almost figured out the routine. Logically, this should be a space like a level-breaking game. Only by deducing the spatial data and constructing the same space can one pass the test and enter the next level. But the real problem lies after passing the level. The game itself is so terrifying, so what kind of shocking secrets are hidden behind this game? He didn't even dare to think about it. But who is Yang Tian? As the saying goes, things will work out when the time comes. He was only depressed for a minute before forcing himself to pick himself up and focus on the level in front of him again. Without a doubt, the key to this level should be the wood element represented by this vitality, right? Yang Tian is very familiar with the wood element and can smell its scent. This means that the space in front of him should be constructed of 7 elements including the wood element, right? Although he had already made some guesses about this level, he did not act arbitrarily. Instead, he ordered the intelligent computer, use thread 2 to deduce the newly appeared space. After receiving the order, the intelligent brain immediately started to work. Finally, he completed what he had in mind. Yang Tian chatted with many pets for a while and fed them a lot of their favorite food. Then he left the suitcase space with a heavy heart. At the same time, near the Salisbury Plain in England, under the giant eye like Stonehenge, a voice shouted again in exasperation, "Damn it! Vega in Lyra has shifted significantly again. What is going on? I need to check. I remember it was in this book." An elderly wizard with messy hair was flipping through a thick book in a hurry. "Found it. How is it possible? The seal that existed in the ancient legend has been unlocked? What are you still doing? Hurry up and spread the news." Chapter 246. On the afternoon of the second day of the holiday, the exhausted Zabanai trio finally arrived at the Furley Manor. Although they looked calm, Yang Tian keenly noticed the worry hidden in their brows. "Not going well?" Yang Tian asked calmly. "Yes, master." When there were no outsiders around, Mrs. Zabanai was still used to calling Yang Tian that. "Minister Fudge is the root of everything." Yang Tian asked again. "Indeed, my lord. I don't know what has gone wrong with this bastard. He overreacted to this matter and messed up many plans. According to our insider, Dumbledore and Fudge had a very heated argument during their meeting a few days ago, and both sides left unhappily. Are there other factors here?" Yang Tian asked. "What do you mean?" Zabanai was confused. "Benefit transfer, the Imperious Curse, or Polyjuice Potion, etc." Yang Tian guessed. "This possibility basically does not exist, my lord. Precisely because he is the minister, there are so many people watching him every day. It can even be said that his every move will attract attention. A more reasonable speculation is that he and the Muggle Prime Minister have reached some kind of agreement. It was after that communication that the black-robed wizards were quickly wiped out." Madame Zabanai explained seriously. "Is there any way to make him change his mind?" Yang Tian patiently sought a solution to the problem. "I'm afraid not. He is almost invincible now. The black-robed wizard has been defeated and Voldemort's soul has been detained. His consecutive victories have given him a huge reputation bonus. Unless a new crisis or competitor emerges, it will be difficult to force him to make a new decision." Madame Zabanai said. "New crises and new competitors? It doesn't seem that difficult." Yang Tian's heart moved, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Then he changed the subject and said, "Let's not talk about them first. What about Dolores Umbridge and Rita Skeeter? Can they?" "Rita Skeeter is fine. Although she seems sarcastic, she is actually very worldly wise and good at reading people's expressions. He longs for a strong umbrella of protection and a network of relationships, and we can provide just that. But Umbridge is very difficult to deal with. She is domineering, self-righteous, unreasonable, rigid and oppressive, and has an extreme desire for control. If such a person fails to succeed in one blow, the consequences will be disastrous." Madame Zabanai revealed everything. "Okay, I got it." Yang Tian was very satisfied with this accurate judgment, then try to take down Rita Skeeter first. "Also, go monitor another person for me, Barty Crouch, the director of the International Magical Exchange and Cooperation Department of the Ministry of Magic. I need you to monitor his every move. Leave this to me, master. Sally said hurriedly, as members of the same sacred 28 families, we have an advantage in monitoring him. Very good, do it boldly. The sky won't fall. Yang Tian comforted, also, continue to prepare for the war according to our original plan, don't relax, and don't worry, we will solve those so-called problems soon. Yes, master. The three women answered in unison. Afterwards, after some detailed arrangements, the three women left the Furley Manor. With a plan in hand, Yang Tian felt much more at ease. Next, he needed to gather all the intelligence and then use the intelligent computer to analyze the most realistic comparison of the strengths of both sides. He even hoped to use the intelligent computer to deduce a practical action plan. Yang Tian spent 3 days like this. On this day, the sudden visit of 2 uninvited guests broke the tranquility of the Furley Manor. The visitors were Madame Maxime from Beauxbatons Academy of Magic and her favorite student Fleur Delacour. My goodness, this Furong is also a famous character in the original book, however, at this time, she is still a third-year student in the college. Yang Tian really doesn't know the purpose of Madame Maxime bringing this girl to visit. In the luxurious and elegant hall of the Fulai family, Yang Tian politely greeted the 2 people. The house elf Dika also served black tea and snacks to the 3 people. Everything was arranged properly. Yang Tian finally asked curiously, Madame Maxime, I wonder what you are here for this sudden visit. Little guy, don't you welcome us? Madame Maxime asked with a smile, don't forget, my teacher is still your teacher's wife. What are you talking about? Your arrival has brought honor to our Fry family. Yang Tian responded politely. Don't be so cautious all the time. I don't have any bad intentions. Madame Maxime joked casually, in fact, it was the teacher's words last time that made me very interested in students like you. Similarly, my student Furong also became very curious after hearing about you. We all want to discuss with you in depth and see your amazing magic level. You are too polite, ma'am. I am just a first-year wizard, how can I be as powerful as you say? At this moment, Yang Tian couldn't help but complain in his heart, I don't believe you, Beauxbatons Academy of Magic is in France, it's vacation time now, why don't you enjoy your vacation and come to me to discuss magic? Stop being funny, okay? Seeing Yang Tian's seemingly modest but actually repelling attitude, Furong stood up, walked to Yang Tian gracefully and said, Junior brother, I am really interested in you. It must be said that Furong is worthy of being a quarter villa. She is very beautiful, with waist-length silver hair and silver shining green eyes. Although she is young, she already has the feeling of charming everyone with her every frown and smile. Okay, Ms. Delacour. I wonder how I can help you. Yang Tian said calmly. Seeing this, Furong wrinkled her nose slightly, took 2 steps forward, and said with a sweet smile, don't call me so distant. You can call me Furong. Yang Tian was helpless. He moved aside as if unintentionally, and then continued, okay, senior sister Furong. Can we get straight to the point now? Furong's delicate face instantly fell. At this moment, she was already doubting her life. Was she getting uglier? Or was her 1/4 villa blood no longer attractive? What kind of person was this? The confidence I had when I came here has now been replaced by deep self-doubt. I boasted at the time, but now? Could it be that I have really failed? Chapter 247. In fact, Fleur and her teacher came to visit the Foley family just to discuss the possibility of Yang Tian transferring to Beauxbatons Academy of Magic. Since Madame Maxime was pointed out by her teacher Pernelle Flamel last time, she had been thinking about digging Yang Tian. But after thinking about it privately, she was surprised to find that with the current achievements of Hogwarts, Beauxbatons was actually at a disadvantage in all aspects except for the alchemy course, and the alchemy course was not worth mentioning to Yang Tian who had Nicolas Flamel as his teacher. After thinking it over, Madame Maxime, who had no chance of winning, came up with an unconventional plan and set her sights on Fleur. This little girl was simply a favorite of God. Not only did she have a beautiful face and demeanor, but she also had a first-class talent for magic. More importantly, in Beauxbatons, how many innocent little boys were fighting for this goddess and vying for her favor. Of course, Madame Maxime didn't really want Fleur to have anything to do with a little boy. She just hoped that with Fleur's incomparable charm, the little boy would be dazzled and eventually fall into the arms of Beauxbatons. By then, Nicolas Flamel and his wife would come back with them. Even the astronomy experts and the transfiguration experts might quickly change their careers for this reason. To this end, she asked Furong for advice and promised her a lot of benefits. As a daughter of heaven, Furong is undoubtedly arrogant. She often proudly says that she does not rely on her looks to win, but on her real strength. But she has a little devil in her heart and knows where her advantages are. Furong is very confident about her looks, especially her Vila bloodline, which can make men obsessed and crazy. Her favorite thing to do is to use her charm to make men crazy for her, fight with each other, and then pretend to be indifferent and enjoy it. Therefore, faced with the amazing benefits promised by Madame Maxime, the two of them hit it off immediately. Furong immediately said that it would be easy to deal with a little brat. As long as she could meet the person, she would take care of the rest. But what about now? Reality slapped her in the face. For a moment, Furong stood there in embarrassment, wishing she could dig out a 3-bedroom apartment with her toes. When Madame Maxime saw this situation, she knew that Fleur could no longer be counted on. She quickly took over the conversation with a smile and said, "Okay, Yang Tian, let's be frank. As the principal of Beauxbatons Academy of Magic, I sincerely invite you to study at our school next semester. Of course, if you have any conditions, you can directly state them." Yang Tian was stunned when he heard this. Are magic schools so competitive now? There is even a stage of recruiting students? He tried his best to control the twitching of his eyes and said seriously, "Regarding this, I can only say sorry. I am very happy in Hogwarts. There are my friends, my teachers, and my full student memories. I have deep feelings for Hogwarts." Madame Maxime remained unmoved and continued to persuade him, "Of course, the feelings of school days are sincere and beautiful, which I can understand. But I have to say, Yang Tian, in addition to these, you should also consider your future and interests. What can Hogwarts give you? Does the school give you any special treatment? There, no matter how well you do, you will always be just an ordinary little wizard. But as long as you come to Beauxbatons, I promise that everything will be different. As the headmaster, I can set up new subjects for you that you want to learn, I can invite any tutor you need, I can give you the highest authority in the Beauxbatons library, I can even open higher-level rare books to you. As long as you make a request, we can discuss it." In order to get Yang Tian, Madame Maxime gave everything she had. "I have to say that I feel full of sincerity from the conditions you offer. Since Madame prefers to talk about benefits, I will temporarily put aside my feelings for Hogwarts and just talk about benefits." Yang Tian had to answer solemnly again. "At Hogwarts, Professor Sinistra is my astronomy teacher, and 3 of the world's most famous astronomers have also taught me this knowledge. Professor McGonagall is my transfiguration teacher, and there are 2 transfiguration masters who have also taught me everything they know. Of course, there is also Mr. Nicholas Flamel, who taught me alchemy, and his wife Pernelle Flamel, who never hides anything in alchemy. Moreover, the teachers of other subjects are also great. Under these circumstances, there is really no need for me to switch to Beauxbatons." "Humph, Nicholas Flamel belongs to us France." Furong, who had just recovered from a blow, screamed like a cat whose tail was stepped on when she heard Yang Tian's shameless words. "But he is in Hogwarts now, Miss Furong. Besides, they are retired now and would rather enjoy the leisure of traveling, the ease of teaching talented students, and the pleasure of doing alchemy experiments. I have to say, Hogwarts is more suitable for them." Yang Tian smiled. "Asshole, are you saying that you are the genius and I am the idiot who was not chosen?" Furong felt like she was going crazy. Her cheeks puffed up when she spoke, just like a bullied little goldfish. "Haha, how can you say that about yourself?" Yang Tian was amused. "You are still great, although you are a little worse than me." "Humph, what a conceited person." Furong became even angrier. "Okay, I'm just teasing you." Yang Tian stopped teasing her and said gently, "I just want to take the liberty to tell you that you are more real now. Sometimes, there is really no need to live with a mask, it's too tiring. I think I would rather get to know this face of yours again. My name is Yang Tian, and I will be a second-year wizard at Hogwarts when school starts." As he said that, he generously stretched out his right hand. "Humph." Fleur seemed to have given up pretending. She directly knocked away Yang Tian's right hand, stroked her hair proudly and said, "I, Fleur Delacour. I will remember what happened today, and I will not let you go. Believe me, we will meet again soon." Her tone was arrogant but firm, as if she was stating a fact that was about to happen. Unfortunately, At this time, Madame Maxime was still racking her brains to think of ways to win over Yang Tian, and did not notice anything unusual. In fact, just when Yang Tian said those words against her, Furong's heart twitched uncontrollably. The so-called Vila is beautiful, but also sad. She is destined to attract the frenzy of the opposite sex and the suspicion and jealousy of the same sex. It's all hypocritical superficial work. Who would really treat you as a friend? She thought she had seen through everything, but when the boy who ignored her charm said something with clear eyes that asked her to take off her disguise, she was still broken. Perhaps, only by treating the people and things around you with a normal heart can you truly gain the unattainable friendship. By the way, what did the boy say? Hogwarts contains his friends, teachers, and student memories. Maybe I can try a different life. Chapter 248. Faced with Yang Tian's stubborn attitude, Madame Maxime's visit to the Furley family was doomed to fail. She could only leave a sentence, "The door of Beauxbatons Academy of Magic is always open to you," and then left in disappointment. Fleur, who had a look of "just wait for me," also left with her. In this regard, Yang Tian could only smile bitterly. However, Yang Tian did not let the two leave empty-handed, but gave Madame Maxime a great gift. It was a silverfish, the one that Yang Tian successfully subdued a few days ago. However, Madame Maxime did not know about this mysterious gift. It quietly hid between the beautiful hems of the headmistress's skirt and would return to France with her. Yang Tian had high hopes for this silverfish, hoping that it could sweep away all the books in the Beauxbatons library. The ideal state is to find all the rare books that Madame Maxime can reach. Ha ha ha! When he thought of something happy, he couldn't help but laugh wildly towards the sky. However, for Yang Tian, this visit was nothing more than a small episode. He quickly threw himself into full preparation for battle. Just 3 or 4 days later, the intelligent computer brought good news again. The trace analysis had been completed. Yang Tian was overjoyed and quickly received the relevant information. It was almost the same as expected. These traces were indeed an extreme use of the combination of mental power and alchemy. It bound a trace of external soul power to the little wizard's own soul through a contract. Thus, this trace of soul power could always follow the little wizard, detect the magic fluctuations and life characteristics around the little wizard, and distinguish between Muggle life and wizard life. If a wizard's magic power fluctuates abnormally and the data around him violates the rules of the contract, then the data and related coordinates will be directly fed back to an alchemical item. At the same time, after comprehensively analyzing the results, the intelligent brain also gave the best response method: create an information cocoon, simulate the trace signal, filter out harmful information related to magic fluctuations, and replace it with virtual information. After carefully studying the countermeasures, Yang Tian decisively began to practice. After just half an hour, he finally put his heart at ease. This trace could no longer pose any threat to him. However, Yang Tian did not stop studying the trace thread because the gains were far more than that. According to the intelligent computer, it has completely cracked the method of making the trace silk, and Yang Tian has discovered new highlights from the method of making this trace silk. According to the intelligent computer, Zhongxi's soul power can detect and collect relevant information in the surrounding area, but it is not limited to magic fluctuations and life characteristics. Those are just special rules of alchemical props. For example, sound, text, images, etc. can all be detected and searched. When Yang Tian saw these contents, the first thing he thought of was the chat software in his previous life. If the traces were defined as information sources, and all the information sources were tied together through alchemical props to transmit information to each other, wouldn't this be much more convenient than the owl? But he didn't know if the traces had a distance limit. Once this idea came into being, it was difficult to extinguish it. Soon, the idea of a communication ring took shape in Yang Tian's mind. He quickly gave instructions to the intelligent brain to deduce the production plan and feasibility of the communication ring. The tracking thread problem has been solved, but Yang Tian is not in a hurry to contact his friends. He hopes to wait until the concept of the communication ring is formed before deciding on the next course of action. Everything was going on in an orderly manner, and he wanted to have a good chat with his old friend Mr. Voldemort. After all, if he could successfully subdue his soul, it would be a great help. Even if he couldn't, it would be a pleasant thing to get some useful information from him. So, in the horrific interrogation area at the deepest part of Soul Prison. "Hi, Voldemort, long time no see. Do you feel lonely being alone in such a haunted place?" Yang Tian greeted enthusiastically. However, Voldemort merely snorted coldly without saying a word in response. Don't be so cold all the time. After all, we have a life and death friendship. Isn't it said that there is no friendship without fighting? Yang Tian kept persuading her. Don't always be so cold. After all, we have a life and death friendship. As the saying goes, there is no acquaintance without fighting. Yang Tian still did not give up and continued to persuade. Unfortunately, Voldemort's heart was as hard as stone today, and he turned a deaf ear to Yang Tian's words. Seeing this, Yang Tian shook his head helplessly and said, "Forget it. Since you are so uncooperative, let's try the new rules from today on. Every day, you will experience 1 hour of extreme pain. Of course, if you are willing to reveal even a little insignificant secret to me, you can be spared this torture. So, Mr. Voldemort, is there anything you want to share with me now?" Faced with Yang Tian's questioning, Voldemort remained silent, as indifferent as a rock. Yang Tian finally stopped talking nonsense and took out a row of bloody steel nails. Before Voldemort could react, the steel nails pierced straight into the gaps between his 10 fingers. Hiss, The extremely suppressed groan of pain instantly brought the atmosphere to a freezing point. Yang Tian hurriedly used his soul eye to carefully search for any psychological cracks that might have appeared when the Dark Lord was tortured, but unfortunately he found nothing. He was not discouraged and immediately took out 10 soul-refining nails. Looking at the execution that had left a deep impression on him on the day of the public execution, Voldemort's pupils shrank sharply, but he still gritted his teeth and refused to say a word. When the soul-refining nail entered the Dark Lord's soul, the eerie flames arrived as promised, which was the burning of the soul. Ah! 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 Voldemort's screams could no longer be suppressed and broke out completely. Yang Tian used his soul eye to search carefully again, but unfortunately, he was disappointed again. So, in the following time, the horrifying whip, the soul stone, all the terrifying torture instruments in the soul prison were tried on Voldemort. The heart-wrenching pain and trembling were unbearable even for the Dark Lord. He could only use a beast-like roar to relieve the extreme pain. After a whole hour, Yang Tian was still disappointed. The stubborn Voldemort didn't say a word in the end. Under the eye of the soul, he didn't find even a trace of psychological cracks in the Dark Lord. At this moment, Yang Tian had a clearer understanding of this demon king who brought darkness into the wizard world. Apart from anything else, his toughness alone was unmatched by ordinary people. Chapter 249. In the next 4 or 5 days, in addition to summarizing the new progress reports from all parties, Yang Tian spent the rest of his time torturing Voldemort's soul. Unfortunately, despite great efforts, the results were extremely disappointing. Yang Tian still failed to obtain any valuable information or clues from the other party. Fortunately, good news came from Sally. The tracking of old Barty Crouch had finally achieved substantial results, all his travel trajectories and travel patterns were under control. It turns out that this old Barty, who seems to be ready to retire in the International Magic Exchange and Cooperation Department, actually still maintains a high level of professionalism. His daily life is extremely regular and unchanging, which can be said to be a typical 9-to-5 work and rest pattern. Not only that, he is also a typical workaholic. You may often see him actively working overtime, but you will never see him leaving early. Wow, it's certainly not difficult to track down such a person. At the same time, Sally also described in detail the residence of Barty Crouch Sr. It was a 2-story building in the Bloomsbury area of London, with a quiet environment and few pedestrians. During the period of surveillance, apart from him, only his house elf Winky often appeared in the residence. Yang Tian, who was familiar with the original work, was almost instantly certain that the Barty Crouch Jr. he had been thinking about was in this house. Without any hesitation, he immediately summoned Xiaolao and his subordinates, as well as some of Sally's men to gather. At 9 o'clock the next morning, a group of black-robed thugs rushed into the 2-story building in Bloomsbury. Just as the house elf Winky was stunned and at a loss, one of the people in the crowd suddenly cast a spell and petrified him completely. The black-robed thugs then conducted a carpet search of the entire house and soon found their target, Barty Crouch Jr., in a room on the right side of the 2nd floor. Barty Crouch Jr. seemed a little dumbfounded at this moment, and in his confusion, he actually turned a blind eye to the thugs that broke in. How could the experienced old Xia miss such an easy chance to win? After knocking the opponent unconscious with a spell, he immediately took Barty Crouch Jr. and Winky into his own pagoda. The entire attack lasted only 3 minutes, and all the black-robed thugs disappeared. What was left was perhaps only the mess on the floor and the empty room. At 7 o'clock in the evening, after a day's work, old Barty Crouch returned home exhausted. But the moment he opened the door, the messy scene in front of him made his heart beat wildly. "Winky, where are you?" Old Barty Crouch shouted in a deep voice. The empty room was dead silent, and no one responded to his calls. Thinking about the secrets hidden in this house, an inexplicable fear surged in his heart. Barty Crouch Sr. lost his composure, shouting out Winky's name while staggering towards the room where Barty Crouch Jr. was imprisoned. After pushing open the door, he was devastated. Sure enough, the damned Barty Crouch Jr., who was under his imperious curse and should have stayed quietly in the room, was gone. Thinking about the disgrace and public criticism he might face, he seemed to have his soul sucked out of him, and sat on the cold ground in a daze. After a long time, Barty Crouch Sr. managed to calm down his panic. He stood up with difficulty and slowly sat back on the sofa in the living room. At 9 o'clock in the evening, there was a gentle knock on the Crouch family's door, and a soft question was also heard outside the door, "Excuse me, is Mr. Barty Crouch at home?" Barty Crouch was awakened by the sudden noise. At this moment, he even felt that a disaster was imminent. However, as an excellent politician, he suppressed his fear and immediately put on a stern face. He calmly opened the door and asked, "Hello, I am Barty Crouch, but I don't know who you are and why you are looking for me." The visitor bowed slightly and replied politely, "Hello, Mr. Barty Crouch. I am Liam White, Mrs. Zabanai's butler. On Mrs. Zabanai's orders, I have come to invite you to a gathering at Zabanai Manor." Barty Crouch Sr. frowned when he heard this. But as the saying goes, don't hit a smiling person, so he could only respond casually, "I don't seem to have any personal relationship with the Madame Zabanai you mentioned. Isn't this late-night invitation a bit abrupt?" "I'm sorry, sir, but Madame said that this matter is extremely important and concerns the truth behind the death of Mr. Barty Crouch Jr. It seems inappropriate to discuss such a private topic during the day when there are so many people around." The butler replied neither humbly nor arrogantly. Hearing this, old Barty's face instantly darkened, with endless anger flashing in his eyes. He deeply suspected that his son was abducted or killed by these people. With this thought in mind, he stared even more closely at the butler in front of him, as if he was going to tear him to pieces in the next moment. However, facing the old Barty's angry glare, the butler seemed unusually calm. He continued, "Please don't misunderstand, Mr. Crouch. The meeting that Madam invited is purely for friendly purposes. The purpose is to discuss some problems together and seek solutions. You should know that any behavior that may cause unnecessary conflicts and misunderstandings is unwise. So, please put aside your concerns and go with peace of mind." Old Barty suppressed his anger and asked through gritted teeth, "Are you sure this is a friendly invitation?" The butler nodded without hesitation and responded, "Of course, Mr. Crouch. Madam specifically asked me to tell you that as a veteran politician, resolving crises is the most basic operation, but how to find opportunities in danger and ultimately achieve a win-win situation for both parties is the most direct criterion for measuring whether a politician is excellent. Believe me, Mr. Crouch, Madam has no ill intentions, she just hopes to have a frank talk with you." To be honest, old Barty didn't believe a word of what the butler said. But what could he do? He was at the mercy of others. Now he could only accept it with a pinch of his nose. "Well, since Mrs. Zabanai is so sincere, I can't be rude. Please wait here for me for a while, I need to tidy up my clothes." "Okay, Mr. Crouch." The butler remained gentle and polite. When old Barty returned to the room, his face was full of ferociousness. He kept stuffing various alchemical equipment into his magic robe and carefully wiped his wand. Only after carefully tidying up the wizard robe did he calmly walk towards the living room. Then, he and the butler quickly disappeared into the darkness. Chapter 250. In the study of Zabanai Manor, the servant quietly left the room after serving tea, while Barty Crouch Sr. glared at the three women opposite him as if ready for battle. There was no confrontation at the beginning, nor was there an ambush trap as expected, but Barty Sr. knew very well that this situation would be even worse. "Mr. Crouch, I remember the last time we met was when you were the head of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement. It's been such a long time since we last met, and you're still as charming as ever." Madame Zabanai complimented kindly. But such compliments seemed like sugar-coated bullets to old Barty. He responded coldly, "There is no need to say polite words. We are all very busy. Let's get straight to the point." Mrs. Zabanai did not show any dissatisfaction with the other party's attitude. Instead, she continued to smile and said slowly, I wonder if Mr. Crouch still has ambitions and is willing to serve the Ministry of Magic in a higher position. A trace of disdain appeared on old Barty's face. He sneered and said, this kind of ridicule means nothing to me, Mrs. Zabanai. You underestimate me too much. As if sensing the other party's dissatisfaction, Madame Zabanai smiled and explained, you think too much, Mr. Crouch. Then I will be frank. As long as you can stand with us, our alliance will fully support you in your pursuit of the position of Minister of Magic. Old Barty was obviously stunned when he heard this. He was a little confused about what the other party was up to. So he continued to test, Mrs. Zabanai wants to form an alliance with me. I'm afraid an alliance is not enough. This kind of relationship is too fragile and cannot withstand the test of wind and rain. Mrs. Zabanai smiled and said, I think loyalty is a better solution. Let me put it this way, as long as you are loyal to us, your son will be free from the Death Eaters and live well, and you can also pursue the position of Minister of Magic. We will help you with all our strength. Loyalty? Just you? Old Batty's eyes were full of suspicion and contempt. Of course not us, but our master. You should have noticed the recent legend about the great wizard who cured the squibs, right? Madame Zabanai asked frankly. Haha, it's just useless sensationalism. Oh, I remember now, this is something you made up. You're not stupid enough to think that I would believe this. Old Batty's sarcastic tone became even stronger. What if this isn't just a gimmick, but a real thing? Mrs. Zabanai instantly put away her smile and looked straight into old Barty's eyes and asked solemnly. Mrs. Zabanai's reaction made old Barty's heart tighten, but he still said disdainfully, so what? Even if this technology can win over many pure-blood families, even if he can really make me the minister, this is not a reason for me to be loyal to him. What if you can also help your son Barty Crouch Jr. escape from the Dark Lord's control and gradually resume his normal life? Madame Zabanai said unyieldingly, just think about it. You won't have any worries at that time. Your son can continue to live happily, and you can stand at the top of the Ministry of Magic wholeheartedly. Old Batty did not interrupt the other party. After the other party finished speaking, he sighed and said, I have to say, the picture you painted is really tempting. But I just can't understand why you think you can do it. What I have been unable to accomplish for so many years can be accomplished by a so-called charlatan. Because I have Voldemort's soul in my hands, and because I can let your son see the true side of Voldemort. The secret door of the study was opened, and a childish but confident voice came slowly. Old Barty was startled and quickly drew out his wand, assuming a defensive posture, while his other hand tightly grasped an alchemical tool. Mr. Crouch, I've just told you that there's no need to be so nervous. If they really wanted to do something bad to you, they could have done it as soon as you entered Zabanai Manor. As he spoke, a group of 3 people had already arrived in front of Old Batty. They were Yang Tian, Old Xia, and Old Li. Feeling the magical fluctuations of the 2 old men opposite him, Old Batty reluctantly put down his wand. Okay, let's turn our attention back to the question just now. Yang Tian didn't care about Old Barty's reaction at all, but continued to ask like a spring breeze, if I promise that all the conditions mentioned by Mrs. Zabanai just now can be realized, are you, Mr. Barty Crouch, willing to be loyal to me? I need more powerful evidence to prove that you are capable of accomplishing these things. Although he knew that he could not win by force, Old Batty had no intention of backing down. It's not difficult, is it? I just said that I can let your son see the true side of Voldemort. Yang Tian said, and then he used his magic wand to draw out a silver thread of memory. After waving the magic wand again, the thread of memory had turned into a picture of Voldemort being tortured. How about it, Mr. Crouch? Do you have a little more confidence in me now? Yang Tian said with a smile. You are the decorated student at Hogwarts? Yang Tian. Old Barty asked in surprise. Mr. Crouch has a good eye. Yang Tian said with a smile. So, you Chinese want to invade the British wizarding world? Old Barty's eyes suddenly became sharp. Haha, you have a really rich imagination. I tell you clearly that I only represent myself or my family. To be honest, let alone the small British wizarding world, I don't care about it. Even if I really covet it, what decision will you make? Yang Tian suddenly revealed his true intentions and said contemptuously. If you agree to my request, we can live in peace and each get what we need. If you disagree with my request, let's not talk about what will happen to the British wizarding world, but your end will be extremely tragic. I can even release Barty Crouch Jr. and let him do some earth-shattering things. By then, the fact that Mr. Barty Crouch Sr. secretly released his Death Eater son will no longer be concealed. Believe me, Mr. Crouch, the scene will be very exciting. Old Batty was so angry that he was shaking all over, his eyes were full of ferocity, but he really couldn't refute. Is this kid really only 11 years old? He is so scary, he can accurately find his weak spot and attack madly. Thinking about the possibility of his reputation being ruined in the future and the possibility of his family being disgraced, Old Batty felt completely hopeless. After staring at the devil-like child for a long time, Old Batty finally sighed and said, "Tell me, what do you want me to do? I've made it very clear, surrender to me sincerely. Remember, you only have one chance, and I have the ability to see through whether you are truly loyal." Yang Tian's low voice was full of threats. I know what to do." Old Batty finally lowered his proud head. Chapter 251. Today's weather was exceptionally sunny, and Yang Tian slept until noon before getting up. He didn't take it seriously, but happily hummed a song while washing up. No wonder Yang Tian was in high spirits. He planted soul seeds for old Barty Crouch and Rita Skeeter successively and recruited them under his command. I believe everyone would be in a good mood, right? When he finished washing up and was about to go to the kitchen to find food, the intelligent brain unexpectedly sent him good news: the production process of the communication ring has been deduced. Do you want to accept the relevant information? Is there any need to say this? Yang Tian quickly chose to accept it. As a result, a piece of information about the production process of the communication ring quickly emerged and merged with Yang Tian's original memory. "Dika, help me get some food, I don't want to go out." Yang Tian, who was already eager to do research, had no mood to find food. So, he quickly turned on the call function of Dika. "It's okay to find Dika when you have something to do. Young master, your food is here. Here are steamed sea bass, scrambled eggs with tomatoes, honey chicken wings, all your favorite home-cooked dishes." Just a few minutes later, Dika placed one dish after another on Yang Tian's table. "Thank you, Dika." Yang Tian smiled gently. Although it has been so many years, every time he sees the gentle smile of the young master and hears his kind words, Dika is still very excited. He waved his hands hurriedly and said, "Master, you are too polite. This is what I should do." Yang Tian didn't say anything else. He touched Dika's big head, and continued to study the production process while eating. For 5 whole days, Yang Tian stayed at home, from familiarizing himself with the process to making it, and he gradually turned the communication ring into reality. At the same time, Yang Tian's many subordinates did not stand still. They all cooperated with each other according to their assigned scripts and staged a big drama of the year. On Monday morning, the Daily Prophet was once again in full force. An article by Rita Skeeter titled "The Terrifying Plans of Evil Organizations in Recent Years", Part 1, attracted the attention of many wizards. This is not a simple summary, but a series of touching stories and a series of real data. Marvin Shulvenka, born in 1921, was captured by an evil organization in 1953 and subjected to inhumane experiments until his head was severed and his body was cut into pieces for further research. The attached illustrations include photos of Mr. Shulvenka during his lifetime, various photos of his experiments, and photos of his dismembered body. Olin Jones, born in 1914, was captured by the evil organization in 1971. His experience was almost exactly the same as Marvin Shulvenka's. The additional illustrations also contain a large number of photos that can be used as evidence. There are countless similar death lists, covering such a long period of time and a large area, which makes the entire wizarding world panic. If the above are just cold data and video materials, then the testimony of a heavyweight witness that appeared in the newspapers would make readers even more panicked. Liam White is the butler of Zabanai Manor. But the more explosive news is that he was once a member of the Black family, but was abandoned by the Black family because he was persecuted by an evil organization in his childhood and became a squib. So why did he change his last name to White? I believe it is self-evident. It was precisely because he was expelled from the family that Liam quickly became the prey of the evil organization. The black-robed wizard launched a brutal hunt and persecution against him, and he could only keep on fleeing and began a life of exile. On the way, he met his wife Sophia White, and the two later gave birth to a son, Cook White. Since then, they have been living in hiding. It was not until they were rescued by Mrs. Zabanai half a year ago that the family finally lived a stable and prosperous life. Liam, who has been hunted for more than 10 years, knows the methods of the evil organization very well. He said frankly that at that darkest moment, the members of this evil organization used the name of Death Eaters to commit all kinds of evil. As for whether the evil organization has reached an alliance with the Death Eaters, it is unknown. Such explosive news had already made the wizarding world panic, but on Tuesday morning, the Daily Prophet's report came back. Rita Skeeter's The Terrifying Plan of Evil Organizations in These Years, Part 2, continued to cause heated discussions. This time, Rita introduced the inside story of an orphanage. It was a criminal base that trained young soldiers and conducted various experiments on ordinary children and squibs. The list of children in the orphanage is long and cold. Each name is accompanied by a string of data, but the message it conveys makes people feel cold all over. This newspaper also comes with a small picture album, showing cold cells, bloody bodies on crosses, children hacking each other with military weapons, and children who have lost their lives but are still crying in trucks. No one can stay calm in the face of such scenes. Argus Filch, the janitor at Hogwarts, burst into tears when he saw the list, because he saw the name and photo of his best childhood playmate, who was a squib like him. He thought that this friend had just moved away, but when he saw his name, he found that he had already passed away. Things were actually getting out of control at this point, but the Daily Prophet's reports showed no sign of stopping on Wednesday morning. Rita Skeeter's The Terrifying Plans of Evil Organizations in Recent Years, Part 3, caused a sensation again. The Wizard Laboratory. Someone actually took a picture of the laboratory that only existed in rumors. The scenes in the illustrations, with all kinds of terrifying mutated monsters, strange blood pools nourishing creatures, all made the wizards' backs chill. If all this was still within everyone's tolerance, the situation could no longer be controlled when the bottles of blood marked with Arthur Weasley's blood, Molly Weasley's blood, formerly Molly Pruitt's, Bill Weasley's blood, Septimus Malfoy's blood, Lucius Malfoy's blood, Narcissa Malfoy, formerly Narcissa Black, were exposed. Whether it was a pure blood family or an ordinary wizard, whether it was a remnant of the Death Eaters or a member of the Order of the Phoenix, at this moment they were all furious. No one could remain indifferent when being monitored all day long and even facing danger at all times. At the critical moment, Barty Crouch Sr. stood up and criticized the Ministry of Magic righteously. The evil intentions of this evil organization are obvious. It is the common enemy of the entire wizarding world. The Ministry of Magic cannot rest on its laurels and allow evil organizations to use research bases to harm wizards. His words were naturally supported by almost all wizards. Because in that densely packed blood list, almost most people were on the list. In other words, this evil organization had been targeting the entire wizarding world from the beginning to the end. This was simply a disaster. For a time, the iron-blooded Barty Crouch once again entered everyone's sight and was talked about by many wizards. Fudge was too soft, and such comments instantly became everyone's consensus. Chapter 252. Damn it, whose side is the Daily Prophet on? It's the mouthpiece of the Ministry of Magic, the Ministry of Magic. Shouldn't it stand firmly on the side of the Ministry of Magic? In the office of the Minister of Magic, Fudge almost roared out his doubts. However, Scrimgeour was silent like a statue, because his name was on the blood list. He didn't even know when his blood was kept. For a moment, his hatred for this mysterious organization burned in his heart like a raging fire. Fortunately, Fudge didn't really want to hear any answer, so he waved his hand and said, "Scrimgeour, you go out first. Also, call Deputy Minister Umbridge in, I have something important to discuss with her." After that, Fudge closed his eyes and fell into deep thought. About 10 minutes later, there was another knock on the door of the minister's office. "Come in," Fudge shouted with all his might. "Minister Fudge, are you looking for me?" The door opened and Umbridge's fat body appeared at the door. "Come in and sit down, Dolores. You are my personal disciple and my most trusted confidant. There is no need to be formal between us." Minister Fudge said kindly. "Yes, Minister." Umbridge still answered respectfully. "This is your favorite black tea. How does it taste?" After personally pouring a cup of hot tea for Umbridge, Minister Fudge smiled and asked, "By the way, what do you think of the recent Daily Prophet?" "Minister, I am extremely confused and puzzled by the behavior of the Daily Prophet. As the best-selling newspaper in the wizarding world, it is also a key window for the Ministry of Magic's external publicity. It has always been in step with the Ministry of Magic in the past. But why is it so reckless this time?" Umbridge was really confused about this incident. "You are right, Dolores. The Daily Prophet has always been an important voice of our Ministry of Magic. But now, they have problems. You have to know that this is closely related to the internal staff of our Ministry of Magic. I suspect that some people are beginning to get restless. Fudge tried his best to guide the topic. Well, if that's the case, then it's easier to deal with. The Daily Prophet blindly fabricates rumors and sells anxiety, causing turmoil in the wizarding world. Such an irresponsible newspaper should be completely closed down. Umbridge expressed her loyalty in a decisive manner. Although he disagreed with Umbridge's point of view, Fudge still smiled and said, "I have to say, Dolores, you and I are thinking the same thing." Then he changed the subject and said with a worried look on his face, "But now public opinion is boiling, and forcible suppression will only intensify the conflict. Minister, extraordinary times call for extraordinary measures. At this moment, strong measures must be taken." Umbridge was used to being domineering, so how could she take a mere newspaper seriously? Things are not that simple, haven't you noticed? Our old rival Barty Crouch Sr. has spoken out again, right after the Daily Prophet was published. What does this mean? It means that he has not given up this position. And in his eyes, this is the best opportunity to counterattack. Therefore, we must proceed step by step. One wrong step may cause us to lose all our advantages. Fudge patiently analyzed the current situation to Umbridge. So, what does the minister mean? Umbridge was a little confused about Fudge's thoughts. If we want to shut up the Daily Prophet, there are two people who are crucial. One is the special correspondent Rita Skeeter, and the other is the editor-in-chief of the newspaper, Barnabas Guffey. Fudge said solemnly, "So, if you enter the Daily Prophet as a special observer now, will you be able to change their extreme ideas or curb their reckless behavior?" "Of course, my Lord Minister." Umbridge was delighted. This was the best time for her to extend her tentacles to other departments. But she did not show any joy. Instead, she said solemnly, "But I also have some concerns, Lord Minister. Although I have enough confidence, if there is interference from other departments, then I..." "Don't be afraid of anyone, Dolores." Fudge replied firmly, "In the Ministry of Magic, our voice is unshakable." After receiving Fudge's assurance and holding the authorization letter personally issued by Minister Fudge, Umbridge left with full energy. In fact, after seeing the report in the Daily Prophet, Fudge was not unaware of the danger of the evil organization, but he could not change his strategy, at least not in a short period of time. You know, just half a month ago, when various forces and even some Ministry of Magic personnel were gathering in full swing, vowing to massacre the evil organization, he cut off the source of the trouble and recalled all the staff of the Ministry of Magic. He even openly called out to all walks of life, warning everyone not to panic. He even called out to the majority of wizards, asking them to live their own lives and not to worry about the ups and downs outside their homeland. But now the Daily Prophet's report has raised the threat of the evil organization to several levels, and it is not an exaggeration to say that they are on par with the Dark Lord. But what can I do? Change my orders every day and take back my orders? Admit that I was blind and did not realize the seriousness of the problem? Then what authority do I have? More importantly, he had already reached an agreement with the Muggle Prime Minister in order to quickly resolve the issue of the black-robed wizards. If he changed his mind now and the other party turned hostile and exposed the matter, how could those guys who shouted that wizards were supreme still support him? Since things have come to a point of being in a dilemma, Fudge simply chose the most labor-saving and direct method. Since the problem cannot be solved, then solve the person who created the problem. However, he had no idea that because of his miscalculation of the situation and his insistence on doing things his own way, what happened in the following days made him very embarrassed. After Umbridge walked out of the minister's office, she felt relieved instantly. She walked steadily and was full of energy. Since Minister Fudge had made the goal clear, she could just execute it directly. Of course, Umbridge had done her homework on this. She knew that of the two, the editor-in-chief, Barnabas Guffey, was a loyal subordinate of old Barty Crouch, and this was the main reason why the Daily Prophet was stirring up trouble. There was no need for her to confront the other party head-on. In contrast, Special Correspondent Rita Skeeter is completely different. Although her articles have been recognized by many readers, in the final analysis, she is just an ordinary person without a foundation. This is why she always likes to rely on sharp language and explosive topics to gain attention. At this time, how easy it would be for me to suppress her and make her shut up as a special observer. With this thought in mind, Umbridge, full of confidence, could not help but quicken her pace. Chapter 253. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, when Rita Skeeter was about to enter the Daily Prophet to report the social draft, she saw a big pink toad appeared in front of her. Rita, who was good at scheming, recognized the other party's identity almost instantly. Dolores Umbridge. But who is Rita now? She is an important member of Yang Tian's staff, one of the few confidants who have been planted with soul seeds and are completely trustworthy. She is also an indispensable key figure in this operation. It is no exaggeration to say that even at this moment, she is secretly protected by many of Mrs. Zabinai's men. She would lie to Umbridge? It's a joke. So she held her head high and continued walking into the newspaper office as if nothing had happened. Umbridge, who had already done her homework, naturally recognized Rita Skeeter at the first sight. She hurried forward, put on a cold and superior attitude and said, "I'm sorry, Ms. Rita Skeeter, as the Deputy Minister of Magic and the Special Observer of the Daily Prophet, I think it is necessary for us to have an in-depth exchange. Please come with me." Hearing this, Rita frowned slightly and thought to herself, what a powerful official. He is using his power to suppress others right from the start? But the question is, am I afraid of this? She then raised a proud smile and said, "I'm sorry, Ms. Umbridge, I'm just a special correspondent, or a freelance writer. I have no affiliation with the Daily Prophet. Moreover, my time is very precious. I really don't have time to talk to you about irrelevant things, so please forgive me." After that, Rita turned around and prepared to leave. Rita's reaction caught Umbridge off guard. She had thought of countless ways that Rita would respond, and even thought that this woman would flatter her and try to get close to her. But she never expected that this annoying woman would choose to confront her head-on. Umbridge was furious at this moment. She could not help but yell, "Miss Skeeter, I advise you to stop. Otherwise, I can't guarantee what will happen to you." Rita laughed at this, and then she said, "Merlin. Is this what a Deputy Minister of Magic should say? So many people are watching, I'm really curious, what exactly does Madame Umbridge want me to encounter? Or are you threatening the personal safety of a special reporter?" The surrounding personnel deployed by Mrs. Zabinai immediately rushed over after noticing something was wrong. Passing wizards who heard the news also gathered to watch the fun. Then, a whisper came into Umbridge's ears. "This is a naked threat. Yet, I never thought that the Ministry of Magic would do such a thing." Umbridge felt her head buzzing immediately, and she immediately said righteously, "Miss Skeeter, please don't misunderstand me. I am only questioning you privately on behalf of the Ministry of Magic about what you have done recently. If you refuse, the Ministry of Magic will arrest you." "I'm sorry, Ms. Umbridge, there's no need for private questioning. I haven't done anything shameful. Please just state the questions you want to ask me in front of everyone. After all, what you said just now was too misleading, and I feel my life is threatened. Is my request not excessive? There shouldn't be anything shameful in the Ministry of Magic that has to be discussed in private, right? You." Umbridge was about to find an excuse to get away with it, but she heard the discussions around her getting louder. "That's right, is there anything you have to say behind people's backs? Yet, why is the Ministry of Magic still so secretive about its actions? Okay, very good. Since you are so ungrateful, then, as a special observer of the Daily Prophet, I declare that our newspaper will no longer have any cooperation with you and will not accept any manuscripts from you. Now, you can go home with your tattered manuscripts." Umbridge almost shouted out all the resentment in her heart in a roaring tone. But her words immediately aroused doubts and dissatisfaction from the people around her. Isn't he the Deputy Minister of Magic? How can he represent the Daily Prophet? Didn't you hear that? Special Observer. Are you trying to control public opinion? Please do not hinder the Ministry of Magic from performing its duties here. And please do not hinder the normal operation of the Daily Prophet here." Although there was still a lot of discussion around, and although Rita showed a half smile and said nothing, Umbridge did not care. She became confident again, and her resentment was swept away. Cut off the source directly at the door of the newspaper, and act first and report later. Let's see what else you can do. At this time, she was already praising her own wit in her heart. However, a discordant voice soon emerged, "I'm sorry, Ms. Umbridge. The Daily Prophet has received too many letters from readers. Everyone is eager to know more about the truth of the evil organization, and Ms. Rita Skeeter's manuscript is crucial. Therefore, your remarks just now cannot represent the attitude of our newspaper." "Asshole, what are you? Umbridge was about to yell, but when she saw the other person's face, she shut up decisively. Because the person was the editor-in-chief of the newspaper, Barnabas Guffey. However, after a slight hesitation, she said firmly, Ms. Skeeter's recent reports have seriously exaggerated the facts, incited the emotions of wizards, and caused very bad effects. Therefore, the reports must stop. Excuse me, ma'am. I want to know what part of the story you mean by exaggerating. As long as you can tell me, I don't mind apologizing in the newspaper immediately. Rita said disdainfully, but if you make false accusations without any evidence, I don't mind suing you to Wisengamot. That's right, that's right. What's wrong with the Deputy Minister of Magic? You can't just accuse someone wrongly. That's right. Show us the evidence. We also want to know what is untrue about Ms. Skeeter's report. Before Umbridge could retort, the onlookers started to make a fuss, questioning her one after another, fearing that the incident was not big enough. You guys, very good. But don't think I can't deal with you. Umbridge became even angrier. She immediately looked at the editor-in-chief and said, This is an internal matter of the Daily Prophet, so I request an internal meeting of the newspaper immediately. She had already thought about it. She would definitely put pressure on these people at the internal meeting. It was just a small newspaper. If they dared to disobey, she would just use thunderous means to arrest all these bastards and put them in Azkaban. Of course, ma'am. The editor-in-chief agreed very readily, but just as Umbridge smiled triumphantly, he spoke again. Chapter 254. Barnabas Guffey said leisurely, however, Ms. Umbridge may not understand the situation. This special report has attracted widespread attention in the wizarding world. Many celebrities have sent us letters, asking us to persist in reporting and reveal the truth. If anyone obstructs the publication of the newspaper in any name, or requests an internal meeting, they will all request to be present as observers. Moreover, due to excessive pressure, we have approved all these applications. Looking at Umbridge's uncertain expression, Barnabas smiled and continued, Those who are going to attend include, Lucius Malfoy, Hector Parkinson, Madame Zabinai, Haemon Greengrass, Albus Dumbledore. Every time he mentioned a name, Umbridge's expression became more serious, but at the end Barnabas seemed to remember something and added, Oh, by the way, old Barty Crouch of the Ministry of Magic will serve as the supervisor. If you are sure you want to convene an internal meeting as a special observer, I will issue a notice now. You are going against the Ministry of Magic and Minister Fudge. Umbridge was already a little overwhelmed. The pressure she had to face seemed to be much greater than she had imagined. Oh? Ms. Umbridge means that Minister Fudge believes that letting the people know the truth about the evil organization is to go against him? Could it be that Minister Fudge has already learned the relevant information? But I don't know why the minister is so afraid of the people finding out the truth. Is he afraid that he has already had contact with the evil organization? Rita instantly seized the loophole in Umbridge's words and began to fight back. You're talking nonsense. Minister Fudge has been committed to eliminating the black-robed wizards and has made great achievements in the process. Umbridge immediately retorted sharply. Then why does he prevent the public from knowing the true face of the evil organization? Are all the actions of Minister Fudge before just part of his deal with the evil organization? Rita cleverly used the reporter's questioning skills to repeatedly throw dirty water on Fudge. You are slandering me outright. You will pay the price for this. Umbridge continued her strong defense and threats. But how do you explain that Minister Fudge prevents the people from knowing the true face of the evil organization? This is simply unbelievable behavior. What is even more incomprehensible is why so many wizards are on the evil organization's blood sample list, but only you and Minister Fudge are not on the list. Can you explain this problem? Rita finally revealed her true colors as planned. When the audience heard her question, they all exclaimed. What? They're not on the list. Real or fake? It seems to be true. Even Scrimgeour, the head of the Aura office, could not escape the clutches of the murderer, but Fudge and Umbridge were not on the list. This is simply unbelievable. Umbridge was completely panicked at this moment. In fact, she had also paid attention to the blood sample list privately. She was originally complacent that she and the minister were not on the list, but now it seems that things are far from as simple as she imagined. This seems to be a trap. At this moment, she could clearly feel the change in the atmosphere around her. If everyone was still making a fuss before, then now, the suspicious and hostile eyes made her suffocate. How should I know? This is most likely a trap. If you have the guts, make the person who provided the information public, and I can. Before Umbridge could finish her words, Rita interrupted her disdainfully, publicly? Do you want the person who provided us with such important information to be exposed so that you can achieve your goal of killing and silencing him? You're talking nonsense, this was all a trap. Umbridge's defense was weak. If the absence of your names on the list is a trap, then why are you two desperately trying to prevent wizards from knowing the true face of the evil organization? You are not thinking of saying this is also a trap, are you? At this time, Rita's speech was like a machine gun and she couldn't stop at all. Umbridge was already sweating. Feeling that she could not hold on any longer, she decisively chose a tactical retreat. Humph, I don't have time to mess around with you guys now. I still have to continue to perform my official duties. Just wait, this matter will not be let go like this. After saying that, she straightened her chest and raised her head, ready to leave. But Rita continued to ask, Ms. Umbridge, you haven't answered the question just now. What do you think of blood? Seeing that Rita was unwilling to give up, Umbridge could no longer remain calm and ran away in a panic. Umbridge, who had fled the scene, rushed back to the Ministry of Magic without stopping, and told Fudge everything that had happened in front of the newspaper office. Of course, she also exaggerated and criticized Rita and Barnabas to cover up her own incompetence, especially when she mentioned the list of blood samples. She gnashed her teeth. Fudge was a veteran politician after all. He quickly sensed the conspiracy and realized how bad his situation was. The blood sample list was likely to be the last straw that broke the camel's back. Fudge certainly would not sit still and wait for death. That night, he took Umbridge to visit several pure-blood families one after another. However, the situation they faced this time was very different from the past. Although these pure-blood families still received them politely, they obviously lacked enthusiasm. What's worse, when they asked for help and further cooperation, the other party just perfunctorily dealt with it and made various excuses to get away with it. After walking a full circle, the two looked at each other in bewilderment. They began to realize that the situation might be much more serious than they had imagined. But they had no idea that this was just a small prelude to a huge storm. On Thursday morning, the evil organization's horrible layout in these years, Part 4, finally met with the majority of wizards. In this article, Rita gave everyone a detailed introduction to the evil organization's garrisons in various cities in the UK, including the number of personnel, member composition, and other information. At the end of the article, Rita made it clear that these black-robed wizards were not eliminated, but gathered together, preparing to launch a huge conspiracy. The report ended abruptly here, leaving people with a feeling of wanting more. Compared with the explosiveness of the revelations in the previous 2 days, it was even less exciting. Readers were not happy with this and some even suspected that Rita was under pressure and did not dare to report the truth. But soon, they found out that they were wrong, because today's explosive news was actually in the newspaper's supplement. Chapter 255. In the supplement, Rita described in detail the scene that happened in front of the newspaper office yesterday. She also attached a lot of video footage. Not only that, she also reorganized the words she questioned Umbridge yesterday and published them in the supplement, which immediately caused an uproar in public opinion. Countless owls arrived at the Ministry of Magic that morning, and many well-known wizards came uninvited to directly inquire about the relevant information. Even the masters of several pure-blood families who Fudge had just visited last night came again today to question Fudge. The staff of the Ministry of Magic hid aside and said nothing, with no intention of helping at all. Isn't this obvious? Everyone's blood was taken, but you were the only one who was fine? You said it was a trap, so why did you jump out to stop the publication of the newspaper? Fudge was already dry-mouthed from explaining, and he felt like he was going crazy. Fortunately, the minister was also a man who could let go of things easily, and he quickly attributed what happened in front of the newspaper office yesterday to Umbridge's personal behavior. Such an action naturally made Umbridge the target of public criticism. Faced with the aggressive momentum of the crowd, Fudge went all out and gave Umbridge an indefinite leave and launched a relevant investigation. Even with such an act, Fudge could not escape unscathed. Under the instigation of some people, Barty Crouch Sr. was once again pushed to the forefront. He would cooperate with Fudge to complete the daily work of the Ministry of Magic. Of course, they would also supervise each other. Dolores Umbridge left in a lonely mood. She knew that her political career was over. Everyone in the Ministry of Magic was already fed up with this cold-blooded woman who would take revenge for any slight, and they didn't even bother to look at her, and let her leave the ministry alone. Because of this, when Umbridge walked out of the Ministry of Magic, no one noticed that she was picked up by a black carriage with Isabella Butterfly carved on it. You know, that is the emblem of the Zabinai family. Almost at the same time, members of the Order of the Phoenix gathered at the burrow to discuss the current crisis. Asshole, how could someone collect the blood samples of several generations of my Weasley family? The good man Arthur Weasley no longer had any kindness on his face, but was replaced by a strong fierce look. There is blood from every one of my children in here, especially Ginny's. My son and daughter-in-laws, my grandsons, and of course mine, my late husband's. I really don't know how long this evil organization has been planning this. Old Mrs. Longbottom also looked serious. Dumbledore's expression was equally stern. I really underestimated this organization before. They are hiding too deeply. On the surface, they have no intersection with our wizarding world, but they have done so many things behind the scenes. That's right. If the Dark Lord is a ferocious monster, then this evil organization is a poisonous snake hiding in the dark. They crawl in quiet caves, but suck the blood of the entire wizarding world. Alastor Moody said in a neurotic and crazy tone, such an organization is the most terrifying. We must catch them all in one fell swoop. Yes, I also support this point of view. Mrs. Weasley also hurriedly said, I don't want my children to live in fear and darkness in the future. However, I still have a question, Dumbledore. Was this information obtained by the child named Yang Tian this time? Yes, based on my understanding of him, it must be his doing this time. But I don't understand how he got old Barty and so many people to speak out, Dumbledore said worriedly. What is there to doubt? Didn't you say before that Yang Tian cured Madame Zabinai, and Madame Zabinai is also a mortal enemy of the evil organization? Given their relationship, Yang Tian only needs to be responsible for providing information. It's not like you don't know Madame Zabinai's methods. Yes, Dumbledore. Have you spent too much time with Snape and been influenced by him? Moody said carelessly, also, I must remind you that although we all know how much you trust Snape, he is not a member of the Order of the Phoenix. And none of us trust him at all. So, next time the Order of the Phoenix gathers, please don't invite him again. Moody's words were immediately agreed by everyone. Dumbledore shook his head and smiled bitterly. These members all thought that Snape had joined them in order to survive after Voldemort's fall. But they didn't know that Severus had contacted Dumbledore as early as August of that year when he realized that Voldemort was likely to kill Lily. After that, he provided them with a lot of important intelligence and became one of the most important sources of information for the Order of the Phoenix. Moreover, with his infatuation and guilt for Lily, how could he rebel against the Order of the Phoenix? But Dumbledore did not explain this to his companions, and Snape himself was unwilling to tell others about this, so he could only respect his wishes. Moreover, Snape could only play an important role when Voldemort returned if he maintained his current personality as much as possible, right? Thinking about the evil organization and then about Voldemort, Dumbledore couldn't help but shake his head and sigh again. What a turbulent time. Well, since everyone agrees, let's prepare to put pressure on the Ministry of Magic tomorrow. This war is inevitable. Dumbledore said with the final word. On Friday morning, the evil organization's terrorist plan in these years, was once again delivered to thousands of households through OWL. And this time the report can only be described in one word, shocking. At the beginning of the article, a magical photo attracted the attention of all readers. In an open space in the dense jungle, black-robed wizards, green-robed wizards, and purple-robed wizards were lined up in neat rows, and their numbers were even more astonishing. This is an army. Everyone who has seen this photo exclaimed. Compared with the photos, the details revealed in the following article are even more incredible. Albania, once a mysterious and charming country in Europe, is now in chaos, and it seems that the evil organization is behind all of this. Social unrest is related to the evil organization, the near shutdown of the Muggle government is related to the evil organization, the infiltration of the local magician family is even more related to the evil organization. The most outrageous thing is that this evil organization has undead wizards and has launched a zombie tide. The explosive news has shocked the readers. Rita came to a surprising conclusion: this is likely to be the next base of the evil organization. If the base is built, they can use it as a base to invade the British mainland again. Considering the past achievements of the evil organization, no one would doubt this. Chapter 256. However, this article does not end here. The following content is the highlight. Rita spent a lot of space to introduce Albania's natural scenery and specialties, such as magic materials, potion materials, minerals, etc., and also listed in detail the value of these resources. To be honest, this description confuses most ordinary readers. It is very abrupt and they don't get the point at all. However, in the eyes of many knowledgeable people and masters of pure blood families, it is completely different. Those are huge sums of gold galleons. So, the group of people who had been denouncing Fudge and Umbridge the day before rushed into the Ministry of Magic without hesitation the next day, demanding that the Ministry of Magic must fully support the Albanian expedition. Yes, the wise guys have already named this action the Albanian expedition, aiming to use this war to restore the former glory of wizards and obtain huge war dividends. Everyone, please listen to me. We can't do this. This will make our British wizarding community the target of public criticism. What will wizards from other countries think of us? Don't say those useless things. We are here to eliminate the evil organization that is causing trouble to the British wizarding world. This logic makes sense everywhere. Hector Parkinson has never been a good-tempered person. Especially now that interests are at stake, he is even more daring and aggressive. Hey, Fudge? I'm wondering, why do you always shirk responsibility in this matter? Are you really in collusion with the other party? Not only Hector, but many petitioners looked at Fudge with strong suspicion and even hostility. Fudge was ready to make a move, but seeing the reactions of the people around him, he decisively chose to keep quiet. It is said that with 30% profit, people will take risks, with 100% profit, they will trample on human conscience, with 300% profit, they will risk being hanged. Isn't this seen the best interpretation? The current situation is that blocking someone's financial path is like killing their parents. These gentlemen united together, they can at least represent 40% of the public opinion in the wizarding world. If they are really offended to death because of this matter, how should I deal with myself in the future? After figuring out the whole thing, Fudge was upset and said nothing. He was silent, but the many visitors obviously would not let Fudge off so easily. Lucius spoke first. Minister Fudge, everyone still recognizes your past achievements. But this matter now concerns the safety of everyone in the wizarding world, and this is an unavoidable fact. Please do not stand against all wizards. If you really find this matter difficult to decide, then Mr. Barty Crouch will be the best person to coordinate this operation. That's right, Minister Fudge. Since you care so much about the security of our homeland, then just exercise your authority in the Ministry of Magic. Let old Barty take over this mission. But let us be frank in advance. This matter concerns the personal safety of all our wizards, so please do not interfere at will during preparations. Otherwise, don't blame us for being rude. The Greengrass family has always been a non-partisan family, but Hayman's stern statement this time also shocked everyone. You guys. Faced with the pressure from everyone, Fudge was so angry that he couldn't speak. He had no doubt that no matter who won or lost the war, he would lose control of the Ministry of Magic. Just when he was in despair, a loud shout suddenly came from the door, "Dumbledore is here!" Everyone looked towards the door after hearing this, and Fudge was ecstatic. At the critical moment, perhaps only this old man could turn the tide? Although he and the old headmaster had just parted ways unhappily because of the evil organization a few days ago, but compared to the radicalism and ambition of old Barty Crouch, Dumbledore still preferred himself as a moderate. With this thought, Fudge could not help but look towards the door with hope. Dumbledore smiled and waved to everyone, while leisurely walking into the minister's office. Looking at those expressions of vigilance, defense, or hesitation, Dumbledore just smiled. He walked calmly to Fudge, patted him on the shoulder and said, "Cornely, I hope you understand that the situation this time is extremely serious. Think about your position. Don't make a decision that you will regret, and don't do things that will be reviled by future generations." This was the first time Dumbledore had said such harsh words to him. At this moment, Fudge finally gave up all his fantasies and was completely awake. But Fudge shook his head heavily, and then said sincerely, "Everyone, I do have selfish motives in this matter, but it is definitely not what you imagine. The black-robed wizards were rampant before, and the clues also pointed to the Muggle government. So, I urgently launched the highest-level meeting." Fudge described the content of the meeting in detail, and finally explained, "I have always believed that only when our homeland can recuperate and slowly recover its vitality, will we have the strength to confront the other side. Now we have not yet walked out of the shadow of the Dark Lord. But it was not until I saw the reports these days that I saw the crisis. I can only say that maybe my policy is a bit conservative, but I can guarantee on my reputation as Cornelius Fudge that I have never sold out the interests of the wizarding world, let alone colluded with them. Fudge certainly knew what kind of blow to his reputation would be caused by saying these words today. But he had to say it. Cornely, I believe you. Dumbledore patted Fudge's shoulder with satisfaction and said sincerely. Seeing this, everyone nodded in relief and did not dwell on the matter anymore. After all, with Dumbledore's presence, it was impossible to completely sideline Fudge today. Moreover, Fudge's speech just now was indeed in line with his style of doing things. Seeing that everyone was no longer strongly opposing Fudge, Dumbledore finally spoke again. You are still qualified to be a minister, at least I think so. But this foreign operation should be handed over to old Barty. He has rich experience in war and will coordinate everything properly. Of course, Minister Fudge's task is also heavy. On the one hand, you have to defend the homeland, on the other hand, you have to raise enough supplies for this expedition. As long as we work together, there is no reason to lose this war. The people around him were all cheered up after hearing this. Only the minister had a bitter look on his face. Okay, Fudge, don't be disappointed. Everyone has their own strengths, right? Dumbledore patted the minister's shoulder again, and Fudge finally sighed helplessly. Although he was unwilling, he was powerless to change the situation after all. Chapter 257. On Friday night, when everything was settled, Yang Tian, the instigator of the whole incident, rushed out of the room excitedly because of another thing. Yes, the communication ring was successful. Of course, although Yang Tian did not leave the house during this period, Meng Jiao would bring back the latest intelligence developments every day. Yang Tian had never worried about the success of the plan. After all the relevant information was carefully selected by the intelligent computer, so it was foolproof. To put it bluntly, even if Sarek was so powerful, it was impossible for him to collect blood samples from everyone, right? But so what? Didn't he let him cut and paste to set such a shocking trap? As long as 9 out of 10 sentences were true, then there was one falsehood at the end. Who could tell it apart? Coupled with the value of Albania's resources shown by Rita's writing, Yang Tian successfully turned a tactical strike into a strategic embezzlement. With such benefits, which master would not be tempted? To be honest, when it comes to strategic vision, China ranks second, and no one dares to claim to be first. They were able to play the game of forming alliances before the birth of Christ, so they wouldn't fall into such a petty fight, right? Yang Tian, in a good mood, packed the letters with the communication ring and the instruction manual one by one, and handed them to Meng Jiao to deal with. He browsed the new information to kill time while waiting patiently. After about 2 hours, Yang Tian felt a tingling sensation in his fingers. He was delighted and immediately poured his magic power into the ring. Sure enough, the next moment, a chat interface with a long white bar floated in front of Yang Tian. He used his magic power and George's loud voice appeared in his mind. Hi, is anyone there? Fred? Say something. See if Yang Tian is bragging or not. Hearing this, Yang Tianzhen was both angry and amused, and couldn't help but yelled, Who are you calling bragging? Don't want to mix with me anymore? Do you think I'm as unreliable as you guys? However, before he finished speaking, Fred's extremely surprised voice came over. Oh, it's really Yang Tian's voice? This is amazing. Obviously, they were extremely shocked that they could communicate with Yang Tian so smoothly and clearly over a long distance. I didn't expect that Meng Jiao would be the first one to send a letter to you. Tell me, what did you use to bribe it? Yang Tian questioned. Don't talk nonsense. What do you mean by bribery? He is our best brother. Yes, a brother. Fred immediately shouted. Are you sure you are brothers? Meng Jiao is an elegant lady. I don't mind conveying your words to her and see if she still thinks of you in the same way. Yang Tian said with a joking smile. Oh, that was a slip of the tongue, an absolute slip of the tongue. Those are our best sisters. George's startled voice sounded. With surprise and curiosity, the Weasley brothers kept chatting with Yang Tian. About half an hour later, Penelope also joined the group chat. No doubt, she was also shocked by this magical way of communication and soon joined everyone in the chat. Next, Neville, Hannah, Pansy, Daphne, Malfoy, one after another, their friends joined in. By the evening, only the Paddle sisters had not joined. But everyone was not in a hurry. After all, they were far away in India, and even if Meng Jiao was extremely powerful, she would still have to fly for a while, right? Afterwards, the friends tested the functions of adding friends and private chat under Yang Tian's guidance. After they had a great time, they started talking about business. So, the problem of Zongxi has been solved. Elena's cold voice came first. Please don't ask the same question over and over again, okay? I have already given the correct answer in the letter. Yang Tian was just as arrogant and didn't give any face at all. Okay, you can come pick me up now. Elena's voice sounded again. Oh, okay. Yang Tian answered casually, but after a pause, he couldn't help but exclaimed, wait, what did you say? I told you that you can come and pick me up. I have already discussed with my father. I will participate in this operation. Elena's voice was still cold, but why did her friends feel so proud when they heard her? And me, Yang Tian. My grandma said that when facing darkness, the men of the Longbottom family will only move forward. Neville also said quickly. Yang Tian was still shocked by the news, but he quickly adjusted his mindset and said solemnly, okay, I'll pick you two up in a while. No hurry. Neville answered immediately, I may have to wait until tomorrow. Grandma went out today and it seems that she will not be back until very late. No problem, just leave it to me. Yang Tian replied with a smile. But at this moment, there is still me, there is still me. As if stirring up a hornet's nest, Daphne, Pansy, and Hannah also spoke up, saying that they had also obtained their parents' permission to participate in this action. Yang Tian was confused. He really didn't expect that so many of his friends would get their parents' permission to participate in the action. For a moment, he felt a heavy weight on his shoulders. However, he also discovered a problem. Those who were allowed to participate in the operation were all from pure blood families, or more precisely, children from the 28 sacred families. Perhaps only these parents with deep backgrounds would know what their children would face in the future? The 5 people's successive statements made the other children very envious. Everyone was upset and no longer in the mood to continue chatting. They all ran to the parents to try to persuade them. The only exception might be Hermione. This little girl has been chatting with Yang Tian in a non-stop manner to relieve his boredom. Hermione's parents are both Muggle dentists, and they are considered elites. In their eyes, now is a peaceful era, and it is the best time to enjoy life. If they really knew what their good daughter had experienced this year, if they really knew that the wizarding world is so dangerous, let alone let her participate in the battle, it is very likely that she will not even be allowed to learn magic. With this thought in mind, Hermione could only suppress her restless heart and continue to live peacefully. Who is Yang Tian? He is a very smart man. He understood Hermione's mentality almost instantly. Okay, last year, you experienced more stories than anyone else. Why are you still not satisfied? Humph, this is a historical moment, don't you understand? Hermione finally stopped suppressing her emotions and said bitterly. Don't worry, there will be many historical moments in the future when you fight with people like me. Can you handle it? Yang Tian said disdainfully. Arrogant. Although she said that, Hermione's mood instantly improved a lot. Because she had confidence in Yang Tian. Moreover, now that she had the communication ring, she could learn the latest developments of the incident at the fastest speed. This might be a blessing in disguise. Hermione was a smart person, and she was able to enlighten herself with just a little guidance. Soon, she started to chatter and ask about the wonderful stories that happened in the past few days. Chapter 258. At this time, the Sarek wizards far away in Albania finally received the news from the British wizarding world. Bastards, they really think we are soft persimmons. Since we want to fight, let's give them a hard time. Red-robed Russell screamed with a vicious look on his face. Russell, calm down. What you just said goes against the purpose of the organization. Red-robe Alger frowned and said. What else? At this moment, are you going to retreat and give the opportunity that is about to be obtained to others? Russell said disdainfully. This may not be a solution. Russell, the reason why Sarek has been able to develop to where it is today is not due to those so-called opportunities. It is because we are patient and forbearing enough. As long as the organization can stay hidden for a long time, we will always encounter better opportunities. Alger advised solemnly. Don't be silly, Alger. You are not stupid enough to think that as long as we hide this time, we can rest assured like before, right? Russell's tone became even more disdainful. Remember what I told you before? Salok had just established a foothold in the Albanian forest. A week later, when I was on duty, I unexpectedly found someone scouting us nearby. At that time, I also searched for a long time with all my strength, but in the end I still found nothing. Think about it carefully. Does this mean that they have been tracking us as soon as our action started? We have been seen through a long time ago. What's the point of hiding now? Instead of this, it is better to eliminate them in one fell swoop. Russell, you are too absolute. This could be an accidental discovery on their part. Don't let the short-term benefits blind you. Have you ever thought about this? If we fight a big battle as you said, even if we can win, it will be a miserable victory. By then, we, Saruk, will be completely exposed and won't be able to hide anymore. And this place is doomed to be lost. Alger said angrily. Alger, don't look so bitter and resentful. Russell teased, first of all, you have to understand that this is by no means a simple accidental discovery. When we were in the UK, we had already collectively withdrawn from the wizarding world. To this end, we even cut off our tail to survive and sacrificed many peripheral personnel. After that, we tried our best to hide our whereabouts and even stayed in other places for a while. But what was the result? Inexplicably, our goal in Albania was exposed. What should we do now? Follow what you said and continue to sacrifice peripheral personnel and move again? What about after that? Will we be found again inexplicably? Will we have a way out then? Looking at Alger with a frown on his face, Russell continued. I've thought about it a long time ago. Since we can't hide anymore, we might as well give it a try. Even if we have to sacrifice all those useless rubbish, we must try to wipe out as many of the enemy's manpower as possible. Some of these people must be very familiar with us, and have methods we don't know about to track us. Therefore, only by eliminating them as much as possible can we have a chance to escape. As long as this group of people are dead, the people who come to take advantage of us later will not understand our methods at all. By then, through some magic means, sacrificing some rubbish, and pushing the social unrest in Albania to the forefront, it may not be impossible to cover up the secrets of this forest. Alger was silent for a long time. He carefully thought about every word Russell said. Finally, he slammed the table and said, well, what you said really touched me. Humph, we have always been careful and low-key, but in the end, some people still remembered us. I am now more and more convinced that this matter is related to that brainless Dark Lord. Otherwise, who would be so familiar with our situation? In this case, let's have a battle. I will discuss it with Eden and mobilize more people. I hope that this time, we can solve all problems with one battle. Luosu nodded in satisfaction after hearing this, but he quickly added, by the way, tell Eden to block the news of Albania from all European countries as much as possible. Don't let more people get involved in the short term. Don't worry, I pay close attention to this aspect. Our secret agents in various countries are playing an active role. All intelligence related to Albania has been defined as rumors. And I also found that some people in the UK are also trying to suppress the news. They seem to be afraid of the news leaking out. Alger said indifferently. Haha, are you treating us like soft persimmons? That's even better. I will make them regret their decision today. Russell laughed strangely. After discussing it for a while, Alger slowly stood up and walked out of the tent leisurely. In the next few days, both sides entered a tense state of preparation for war. Yang Tian rode in a thestral carriage to pick up people, Elena, Neville, Hannah, Pansy, Daphne and all the friends who had their parents' permission gathered at Foley Manor, ready to start training. What people didn't expect was that the Weasley brothers actually sent a message at this time. They really persuaded the Weasleys to join this operation. There was no other way, so Yang Tian had to take his friends to start the journey of picking up people again. The borough is located outside the village of Ottery St. Catchpole in Devon, England. It is a peculiar little building built with magic, and is regarded as a second home by Harry Potter in the original book. Today, the borough was particularly lively. 6 little wizards arrived as scheduled in the thestrals, and Mrs. Weasley had been waiting outside with her 4 children. I'm sorry, Mrs. Weasley. I'm sure what happened today has caused you a lot of trouble. Yang Tian greeted politely as soon as he got off the thestral carriage. He was ready to endure the scolding. After all, Mrs. Weasley's love for children is obvious to all. The other 5 friends followed closely behind Yang Tian, looking uneasy. There was no other way, as the famous scene where the lady angrily scolded Ron at school had left a deep impression on them. But it was obvious that all their worries were unnecessary. After Mrs. Weasley looked at the young faces of the little ones one by one, she burst into tears and said, "I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. I know I shouldn't cry, but I really can't help it. When I saw you, I seemed to see myself when I was young, the same high-spirited and fearless. Do you know? This time, many of our wizards will go. This is a war, it's very dangerous, and people will die. I don't know why I agreed to such a crazy request from these two silly boys. I wanted to say that we adults should take care of everything. You are all children and can continue to live a happy childhood without worries. But they said, the children of the Foley family went, the children of the Green Grass family went, the children of the Longbottom family went, and the children of the Parkinson family also went, so why can't the children of the Weasley family go? This question stumped me, really children? Can you understand the feelings of a mother?" Chapter 259. Mrs. Weasley was already sobbing a little, but she still said firmly, "Although I have agreed to their participation in this operation, I still want to say to each of you that you must protect yourself, don't let yourself regret it, and don't let your family cry for you." Hearing this, Yang Tian said solemnly, "Aunt Weasley, you should also know the cruelty of this war. In the chaotic battlefield, I really can't guarantee anything. But at least, during this period of time, I will teach you as much as possible how to survive on the battlefield." The friends nodded in agreement. The Weasley brothers also changed their usual playful expressions and comforted their mother softly. Mrs. Weasley was relieved about Yang Tian's promise, this child had created too many miracles. She hugged Yang Tian tightly and said, "Thank you, child. Thank you for everything you have done for his brothers, and thank you for everything you have done for everyone. Aunt Weasley, you are too polite. We are brothers and comrades in arms." Yang Tian said with a smile. After calming down a bit, Mrs. Weasley suddenly looked at her youngest son and said, "Ron actually wanted to join, but I stopped him. He can't even put on the most basic armor to protect himself. If he really goes to the battlefield with such strength, I will just wait to collect his body." Ron's face turned red and he lowered his head in shame. "Don't say that, Auntie. Ron did encounter some difficulties in his first year, but they are temporary. He will get better as he gradually adapts to the learning pace of Hogwarts." Yang Tian comforted him. He then remembered his evaluation of Ron's wand in his previous life, and hurriedly asked, "Also, Auntie, I want to ask, Ron's wand didn't originally belong to him, right?" Hearing this, Ron glared at Yang Tian angrily and said, "What do you want to say?" Mrs. Weasley also looked a little unnatural, but she still scolded Ron, "Don't be so rude." Then she gently said to Yang Tian, "Yes, this wand originally belonged to his brother Charlie. Because it is a little damaged, and Charlie is a dangerous dragon hunter, so..." "Auntie, don't misunderstand." Yang Tian knew that the mother and son were overthinking, so he explained, "I observed that Ron's wand should be made of ash wood. But ash wood has a characteristic that it will always stick to its true owner. In fact, it is not suitable to leave it to or give it to other people." "What?" Before Yang Tian could finish his words, Ron screamed like a cat whose tail was stepped on, "No wonder I'm learning magic so slowly. Yang Tian, are you telling the truth?" At this moment, how could he care about the grudge between him and Yang Tian? He hugged Yang Tian's arm and asked like a wounded kitten. "Humph, if you are not good enough, don't make so many excuses. With your lazy attitude towards studying, it's useless to change any wand." Mrs. Weasley scolded Ron again, and then looked at Yang Tian for help. "Is this true? How much impact will it have on Ron's spellcasting when he uses this wand?" "It will probably weaken it by 70% 80%. Mr. Ollivander is an expert in this area. You can consult his professional opinion," Yang Tian said. Ron felt extremely aggrieved at this moment. He looked at his wand for a while, then at Mrs. Weasley, tears already flashing in his eyes. "It's so unfair, isn't it?" Mrs. Weasley was even more embarrassed. She rubbed her hands like a child who had done something wrong and said, Will it have such a big impact?" "I think so, ma'am. Fortunately, this wand is for his brother Ron. If it wasn't a direct relative, it probably wouldn't be able to use even 10% of its power," Yang Tian replied, suppressing a smile. "Oh, by the way, what I actually wanted to say is that I made some delicious fruit cakes and meat pies of various flavors. The little ones must be hungry, right? Come and try them." Mrs. Weasley really couldn't continue the conversation, so she forced herself to change the subject. The friends smiled at each other, and then gathered together and walked into the burrow. What followed was naturally a rare leisure time. Everyone talked, laughed, ate, and made noises, and was very happy. Yang Tian was finally lucky enough to experience the fun of the humble dwelling. Of course, Ginny was also very happy to have a group of brothers and sisters come to visit, especially because they all looked so powerful. However, she still felt that Harry Potter should be greater, right? When she thought of this, she blurted out, "Will Harry Potter also participate in this operation?" Everyone was stunned when they heard this, but Yang Tian seemed to have guessed what the little girl was thinking. He shook his head and said, "Harry probably won't participate in this operation. After all, we are going to the battlefield." Hearing this answer, Ginny was obviously stunned for a moment. She seemed very unhappy and then she said nothing. Instead, Ron quietly came to Yang Tian when no one was paying attention and said sincerely, "Thank you." After finishing the trip to the burrow, the friends returned to Foley Manor in the Thestral carriage. What awaits them is arduous training under the guidance of Yang Tian. It is only at this moment that the three new members understand what the old members have been through. Neville, Pansy, and others had obviously been undergoing similar training, so even though the number of training subjects increased this time, they still adapted quickly. But Elena and the Weasley brothers were miserable. Under the painful torture of the nightmare daily training method, they were exhausted to the point of collapsing on the ground every day, and injuries were commonplace. If it weren't for Yang Tian's treatment, the three of them might have been game over long ago. But even though it was so difficult, everyone still gritted their teeth and persevered, and they made rapid progress. In addition to training these friends, Yang Tian has also been focusing on personal training. Recently, he has devoted all his energy to practicing the star-picking technique obtained from the silverfish. Seeing that the war is imminent, if he can successfully practice this skill, his magic damage at night will increase exponentially. There is no doubt that he will have an extra way to save his life, and his own attack tactics will definitely be more flexible. During this time, Yang Tian was still waiting for news from Mad Dog. This tracking expert had been assigned a different mission and was sent to Hungary for reconnaissance. The target of the reconnaissance was none other than the vampire countess, Arabella Bathory. However, it seemed that due to the short time, there was no breakthrough. At the same time, the news from Albania was not optimistic. In just a few days, a large number of Solok members arrived. The number of new members was half of the original number. It has to be said that it was a big deal. In fact, Yang Tian had thought about using high-level combat power to launch a sneak attack, but judging from the other party's deployment in alert situation, they should have been prepared for this, and the Red Robes often patrolled the camp and important checkpoints. After the brain deduction, if he still used high-level combat power to launch a sneak attack in this situation, the final result would most likely be being dragged to death. In this case, Yang Tian no longer hesitated, but continued to use his brain to deduce the battle plan. With his efforts, one action plan and backup plan after another gradually took shape. Chapter 260. 3 days later, good news finally came from Hungary. The envoy sent by the Forley family finally contacted Countess Bathory. Taking this opportunity, Mad Dog also completed the latest reconnaissance report. Judging from the report, the situation does not seem optimistic. The meeting in Sayat Castle lasted only 1 minute. The Countess seemed to be indifferent to all the outside world. She kept a stern face throughout the whole meeting. The only sentence she said was cold and simple: "If you want me to take action, think about what exchange conditions you can use to impress me." After saying that, she floated away. Despite this, Mad Dog still recorded the entire meeting and sent it back as video footage. Looking at this video, Yang Tian couldn't help but fall into deep thought. In the video, although the Countess was dressed in extremely gorgeous clothes, it couldn't hide her malnourished body and stunted face. What the hell is this? A vampire who is hundreds of years old actually looks like a 13 or 4-year-old girl. This is completely different from the vampires recorded in the books. Who could have imagined that such a famous countess would look like this? The more Yang Tian looked at it, the more confused he felt. He couldn't help but use his brain to deduce the cause of all this. The brain was also very capable and gave the deduction results in just a few minutes. Seeing this result, Yang Tian was surprised and delighted. Isn't this a typical case of a pillow being given to someone who is sleepy? Maybe this countess is not that difficult to deal with. Soon, Yang Tian began to make arrangements. On the one hand, he mobilized Li Lao, Xia Lao and their subordinates, and arranged enough life-saving and escape measures. Of course, this was just in case. For the legendary master who could be comparable to the Dark Lord, one should still maintain the minimum respect, that is, if the negotiation fails, just run away. On the other hand, Yang Tian brought a letter to the Countess. There was only one sentence in the letter: I can help you solve your health problems, but I don't know what you plan to exchange this time? I thought that I would have to wait a few days for a reply after sending the letter. But what Yang Tian didn't expect was that just one day later, the famous Countess led her men to visit the Furley Manor. When the house elf Dika led Countess Bathory and her group into the living room, Yang Tian greeted them with a smile on his face. However, when the Countess saw that the boy who came to greet her was an unbelievably pretty boy, a trace of extreme disappointment and sarcasm flashed across her cold and calm eyes. She said nothing and even turned around to leave. Yang Tian said calmly, let's talk about the cause of your illness first. You can't subdue the energy in your body that doesn't belong to you. Right. That's right, Arabella Bathory's current situation is almost the same as the time when Yang Tian almost died, both of which were caused by his inability to completely control the external energy. The only difference is that Yang Tian was troubled by the dark element energy at that time, and he had the intelligence brain to deduce, but it was unknown what kind of energy Arabella was troubled by. However, as soon as the two met, Yang Tian immediately performed an internal inspection, and in this way, he not only confirmed the results of the intelligence brain's deduction, but also found that the external energy was most likely related to blood. When Countess Bathory heard these words, she paused involuntarily. Yang Tian smiled slightly and continued, if I don't help you, in 3 years at most, your flesh and blood will be completely exhausted by the energy in your body. I can understand why you doubt me, but are you really not going to give it a try? This is your only chance. Bathory hesitated, but her pride as a strong person prevented her from changing her decision immediately, although, she could not completely control the strength of this nominally strong person for the time being, and it might even cause endless harm to herself. She glanced at the boy again before she said coldly, little guy, how old are you? What grade are you in? How many spells have you learned? I don't know where you got some secrets, but you dare to come out and cheat me. You even said you can solve the problem in my body. Who gave you the courage? Yang Tian did not follow the other party's topic to show any magic to prove himself, nor did he follow her words to explain anything. How childish it is! He just said calmly, since you don't believe me and have no intention of trying, please go back. After all, your disease is not considered a disease. As long as you can barely control it, you will not feel unwell. I am just curious, how long can your already weak flesh and blood hold on? After saying that, he took the initiative to turn around and leave first. Wait, little guy. Seeing that Yang Tian's movement of leaving did not seem fake, the Countess became uneasy. She immediately stopped him and said, since you are so powerful, you have to show something, right? After all, we don't know each other. It's impossible for me to believe you just by your words, right? Yang Tian looked at the proud woman seriously, then walked forward and took out the golden needle, as you wish, ma'am. But I hope that after this time, you will be less skeptical of my treatment methods. Now, please show me your left arm. Arabella said nothing more and obediently followed Yang Tian's instructions. The next moment, the golden needles in Yang Tian's hand were like fluttering butterflies, piercing into the acupuncture points on her arm with amazing speed and accuracy. The whole action was smooth and seamless, leaving people dumbfounded. Every time the golden needle pierced into the acupuncture point, Arabella could immediately feel a warm current and vitality flowing out from the tip of the needle, just like the warm spring sun penetrating through layers of dark clouds and dispelling the haze in the body. As the last golden needle pierced into her, the long-standing heavy feeling of depression had dissipated a little. Even more amazingly, the blood energy that had been bothering her suddenly became much calmer and was no longer as aggressive as before. This feeling really made Arabella intoxicated. Yang Tian smiled smugly at this. Otherwise, how could he be so sure? You have to know that he was attacked by the dark element energy at the beginning, and the dark holy water induced the dark element energy to completely riot and was completely out of control, and Arabella's energy was obviously not as strong as the dark element energy, so the damage caused was naturally much smaller and slower. Back then, Yang Tian had even mastered the energy of the dark element and had accumulated rich experience as a result. So how big of a problem would he have with the energy of the next level now? Sure enough, this time when he gave the acupuncture, he only used the power of the wood element that had evolved many times, and he was able to shock the primitive energy in Arabella's body. So as long as the plan was appropriate, healing should not be a problem. Thinking of this, he ordered the intelligent brain to deduce the treatment process while asking Arabella for more detailed information about the energy.